Okay, good evening. We're now ready to begin. This planning meeting is now called to order. This meeting has been properly noticed and is posted in accordance with the open meeting law. We're live on KCLV Channel 2, and this meeting will be rebroadcast Saturday at 10 a.m., the following Monday at midnight, Tuesday at 5 a.m., and again at 6 p.m. Would everyone please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Chair Trowbridge.
Present.
Vice Chair Quinn.
Here.
Commissioner Flangus.
Here.
Commissioner Goins.
Present.
Commissioner Truesdale. Commissioner Moody.
Here.
Commissioner Schlotman.
Present.
Thank you.
I'd like to call your attention to the information printed on your agenda concerning our actions and the appeal and review process, if appropriate. Please read this carefully, and if you have any questions, staff is available. Also, the second page of the agenda contains our rules of conduct. We appreciate your adhering to those rules so that we can have a smooth meeting. Thank you. Now I'd like to open the fourth item, which is the public comment section. All comments made under this item for specific action items will be cross-referenced to those items. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak under this portion of the agenda? Okay.
She's here.
Well, come on down. Hi. I thought you were just waving to somebody.
Hi, I just want to thank you for allowing me the opportunity to voice my opinion. I'm speaking in regards to the special use permit number 42683 for possible bail bonds at 1401 East Charleston, and also for special use permit number 42648 for a pawn shop. I live in the Huntridge district. I'm a 20-year resident of that neighborhood, and I feel that the downtown neighborhoods are on the precipice of something fabulous and wonderful. And I've never ever come here before to shoot something down, but I would not like to see my neighborhood become known as Beg, Borrow, Steal, Bail Bond Boulevard. And I think that we have planning laws in effect to keep those things from happening. And I just want to let you know that I, as a 20-year resident of that neighborhood, am opposed to the special use permits that I mentioned before. And I appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
You.
And your name, ma'am? Name,
I'm
your
sorry.
name for the record?
My name is Kathleen Carr. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak under this section of the agenda? Seeing none, we'll declare it closed. Thank you. We'll now move to item number 5, which will be, is there a motion to approve the minutes of the Planning Commission meeting of August 9th, 2011, and the Planning Commission workshop meeting of August 23rd, 2011?
I'm happy to approve the minutes of the Planning Commission meeting of August 9th and of the workshop held on August 23rd.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be voting for the only for the Planning Commission meeting, and I won't be able to vote on the workshop because I wasn't in attendance.
Thank you. And the same situation applies to me, so I'll abstain on the portion relating to the workshop. But, motion has been made. Please cast your votes. Opposed? Motion carries with the note of the 2 abstentions. Okay. Item 6. Let's move to the housekeeping items. Are there any items that commissioners, staff, applicants, or members of the public would like to pull forward for action?
Mr. Chairman, items 15 and 16, the applicant has requested these items be obeyed to the October 11th Planning Commission meeting. Item 31, the applicant has requested this item be obeyed to the October 11th Planning Commission meeting. And item 32, the applicant has requested this item also be obeyed to the October 11th Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak on any of these items? Seeing none, Commissioner Quinn, your motion on these housekeeping items?
My motion will be to follow staff's recommendation to hold them until the following meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion has been made. Please cast your votes. Post. Motion carries. There are no consent items, so we can move right to the one motion, one vote. The following items may be considered in one motion, one vote. They are considered routine, non-public, and public hearing items. All public hearings and non-public hearings will be open at one time. Any person representing an applicant or a member of the public or a member of the Planning Commission not in agreement with the conditions and all standard conditions for the applicant recommended by staff should request to have that item removed from this part of the agenda. We have item 7, EOT 42651. The applicant is Walgreen Company. The owner is LV2NW LLC for possible action on a request for an extension of time of an approved special use permit, SUP 38340, for a 79 square foot accessory package liquor off-sale use within an existing 15,120 square foot retail establishment at 6001 West Cheyenne Avenue. Item number 8 is the tentative map 42676 Wallapai Commons. The applicant owner is Wallapai Commons LLC or LD LLC for possible action on a request for a temporary map for a one-lot commercial subdivision at the southwest corner of Charleston Boulevard and Wallapai Way. Some people say Havapai, the Indians call it Wallapai, Native Americans, so that's why I pronounce it Havapai. The number 9 is special use permit 42604. The applicant is Gracie Bodie, Inc. Owner is IPTV BL6 136 LLC for possible action on a special use permit for a proposed animal hospital, clinic, or shelter with no outside pens within an existing 2,385 square foot building at 490 South Buffalo Drive. Item number 10 is special use permit 42639. The applicant owner is Christopher S. Allen. It's for possible action on a request for a special use permit to convert an existing 460 square foot accessory structure, Class 2, into an accessory structure, Class 1, with kitchen at 1125 Calhoun Drive. Item number 21 is a special use permit 42672. The applicant is Bowen Associates LLC. The owner is Center Point Plaza LLC for possible action regarding a request for a special use permit for a beer, wine, cooler on-sale establishment within a proposed 2,100 square foot establishment restaurant at 10,300 West Charleston Boulevard, Suite number 5. Item number 12 is special use permit 42686. The applicant is John Beso. The owner is FACE Holdings, Warula LLC, for a possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed 6,200 square foot liquor establishment tavern with waivers to allow no distance separation from another liquor establishment tavern and a 1,200 foot distance separation from a religious facility and a 1,340 foot distance separation from a school where 1,500 feet is required at 450 Fremont Street, suite number 130. I now declare the public hearing open for items 9 through 12. Anyone wishing to speak on any of these items, please approach the microphone and give your name for the record.
Yes, thank you. Todd Farley, 240 North 19th Street. On number 8, what is a one-lot commercial subdivision? Is this one humongous lot, or what are we talking about here?
I don't believe this is a public hearing item, but it's a question worthy of an answer. Could staff field that one for us, please?
Mr. Chairman, through you, this is an existing commercial shopping center. I believe it is a multiple lot shopping center. This remapping would just take those multiple lots and create a one-lot commercial subdivision that would allow them to further subdivide into ownership parcels via record of survey.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to item 7, I'm going to abstain because it's located right across the street from a property I have an ownership interest in.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
regarding item 8, I will abstain from voting on that due to my law firm's representation of Wallapai Commons.
Thank you. Any other abstentions or comments? If not, we're ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion for staff's recommendation of approval of items 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, noting that Commissioner Moody has abstained from number 8 and Commissioner Truesdale from number 7. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion has been made. Please cast your votes. Motion carries. We now,
Mr. Chairman, items number 7, 8, 11, and 12 are final action in the absence of an appeal within 10 days. Items number 9 and 10 will go forward to City Council on the October 19th City Council meeting agenda.
thank you. We now move to the public hearing items, item 13 and related item number 14. 13 is a general plan amendment, 41-934. The applicant owner is Royal View LLC. It's for a possible action on a request for general plan amendment from PCD, Planned Community Development, to Service Commercial at the northeast corner of Sky Point Drive and Horse Drive. The companion item number 14 is zoning, 41-933, for a possible action on a request for a rezoning from a residential estates to a limited commercial. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, we do have a request for an abeyance on this, so I will defer to the applicant.
Thank you.
Chairman.
Applicant,
Mr. Chair, excuse me, Mr. Chairman,
please.
over here.
There, okay.
Yeah, I'll be abstaining on this item as much as Mr. Garcia's client has retained my company on another item, and so out of an abundance of caution, I will be abstaining on this one.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I too will be abstaining as well. My law firm provides legal services for Mr. Garcia, so also out of an abundance of caution, I'll be abstaining.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, Mr. Garcia, please, you're going to request an abeyance?
Yes, Mr. Chairman,
Because this, I believe, is the third request for an abeyance, we have to have sufficient justification to justify findings of appropriate action.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand and appreciate that, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. George Garcia, 1711 Whitney Mesa Drive, Suite 110. We do have a request for abeyance, and the purpose for the abeyance is very specific. We've had a couple months' worth of efforts and negotiations with the immediate abutting neighbors, which is a fairly small group. We presented them some alternatives back a couple weeks ago, and it asked them to meet with their own attorney to get some information. We had not heard back from them, and there's good reason. I don't need to go into necessarily details, other than there was a breakdown in communication due to not their fault nor ours, but another party. And we have been able to just recently reestablish that as of last night. Although in speaking with a couple of the neighbors here who I just met with now, literally, basically they've indicated that they don't want to have a continuance. So we would certainly think that there's value to that continuance to try to resolve this issue. We basically had an agreement in principle with the neighbors. They have concerns about enforceability. I think that's been expressed in the documents they provided to you from the Homeowners Association. We think we have some answers to how that can be addressed. We think there's value, again, to doing so and continuing that dialogue with them. But obviously, if they're in opposition tonight and you feel that there's a need to be heard, we're prepared to do that if necessary. We don't think that's to anyone's advantage, and be happy to explain why if you have any questions.
Thank you. The request has been for an abeyance of this item. Do we have a motion regarding the request?
Mr. Chairman, I have met with Mr. Garcia. He's concerning this project, and he's described in some detail, which I know he would be glad to share with us, on some of the conversations with the owners, property owners, and how, and it is a complex issue. And if he's communicated with the neighbors as much as he has tried to explain it to me, I think they're making efforts to reach out to the neighbors rather than just delay this. So I'm in favor of supporting the extension, and I normally don't support extension, third-time extensions. But
Before I request for a motion on the item, I would like to explain. You saw me being hesitant there for a second when he first made the request. The reason for that is that typically if we've had citizens come down to make their comments regarding an item, even though it's going to be continued or held, we would take those comments and put them in the record, and then those comments would apply to when the hearing was actually held. That's the normal process. But I was trying to deliberate in my own mind the value of letting people make comments about a proposal that very well may change between now and when the public hearing would be. And so you may be expressing an opinion about a situation that simply doesn't apply. And while I feel for you for coming down and being involved in your government in action, which is always good, it may not be appropriate to hear comments. That's my thought on it. So having said that.
And Mr. Chair, if I can just weigh in on that, my preference would also be to hear any public comment at the time we hear the item, just to keep it fresh in my mind. But I'm also aware of the ongoing negotiations between the parties that have been represented, and it's my feeling that there would be some benefit from an abeyance for 30 days to come back in October. So my vote will be for that abeyance. In fact, I'll go ahead and make that motion now, that we obey this for 30 days until October 11th at the next Planning Commission meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Motion has been made to grant the abeyance. Okay. Now we can have the public hearing regarding the request for the abeyance. Hang on, we're not voting yet. I was premature in calling for a vote. We need to have a public hearing regarding the request for the abeyance. So now declare the public hearing open. Anyone wishing to speak on the request for the abeyance can speak. Just give your name for the record.
Okay, we can't request not to have an abeyance?
Yes.
My name's John Tobler. I live at 9121 Picket Fence Avenue. My property abuts the property in question. The property, all the school children come up Horace and Russell onto the road that goes up over the freeway. They put up, fences and things like this to protect the children. Turning this property into a C1 of any type would make it difficult for those children and possibly create a situation where accidents could happen. We were assured when we bought our property that the land would remain the RE zoning, and we have no objection to them using that in that respect. We're concerned 30 days is not going to make a difference. None of us that abut that property wants C1 zoning of any type.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on the question of the request for an abeyance?
Nothing additional, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Michelle Tobler. I'm also in objection to the request for abeyance. It's the third one, and as John Tobler just said, there's been no agreement in theory or otherwise. Most of the residents are adamantly opposed to the C1 zoning, so they want it to remain RE, and there doesn't seem to be any point in a further continuance. However, having said that, I do have some concerns that because notice of a possible continuance went out, that there's homeowners here that aren't here that would have been here. And it's also my understanding that the Homeowners Association has a petition that was signed by multiple homeowners in the area. And we've been told that that was faxed here a couple of times, but the Planning Commission still has no record of it. So for those two reasons, perhaps a continuance would be appropriate, just to make sure that anyone who wants to speak on it would be here, and that the petition that was signed actually gets put into the record. Otherwise, there doesn't seem to be a reason for it, because most of the residents wanted to remain residential.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
May I just add one thing? Arlene Coleman, City Clerk. A gentleman did call into our office this afternoon asking had we received that petition, and at that time we had not. And since prior to this meeting, there is, for the record, a petition that apparently has been submitted now. It is in our backup if you'd like to see it.
We can see it at the time we do the hearing is the appropriate to do it all at one time. Okay, no other individuals to speak on the question of the request for the abeyance. I'll declare the public hearing closed, and at this point, the motion has been made for granting the abeyance for 30 days. So now we can cast our vote. Motion has been made. Yes. Please post. Okay, the motion requesting the abeyance has been granted.
Chairman, Commissioners, thank you. Good night.
Item 15 and 16 have been obeyed also. We now move to item number 17 and companion items 18 and 19. Item number 17 is a mod 41437. The applicant owner is New Vista Ranch, Inc., for possible action on a request for a major modification of a previously approved rezoning, zoning 16580, to amend the master plan, development plan, and development standards at 7875 North Rainbow Boulevard. 18 is ROC 40981 for possible action on a request for review of condition of a previously approved rezoning, zoning 16580, to eliminate conditions 5, 7, and 9. And item number 19, site development review 40980 for possible action on a request for a major amendment to a previously approved site development plan review, SDR 16581, to divide 2 large buildings into 9 smaller buildings for a 78-unit assisted living facility, a living community. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, the proposal reduces the scale of the previous approved project by 18,175 square feet. It also breaks the one large building into 10 smaller structures and moves the primary 2-story community center building closer to Grand Teton Drive frontage. The uses will remain the same as previously approved. To accomplish these objectives, the site development plan review and the modification application were required. Since the proposed plan reduces the overall impact the project will have on this area, staff supports these applications. In regards to the review of condition for items number 5, 7, and 9, staff supports these as they have been addressed through the site plan review process. Please note we have received additional protest and support since publication.
Thank you. Before I open the public hearing, I would like to comment that I believe that the city clerk and the planning commissioners are in receipt of 2 letters, one dated August 25th, 2011, and the other dated August 2nd, 2011, both from Neil Gallitz on this subject. So those are on the record. Okay, now I'd like to declare the public hearing open. Anyone wishing to speak on this topic, please approach the microphone and give your name for the record.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm Tabitha Fittement, 3800. Oh, wow, that was a long time ago. 8345 West Sunset Road. With me is John Burke, architect, and we are here on behalf of the applicant. I appreciate staff's favorable recommendation, and if you'll just indulge me for a minute, I would like to give you just a brief history of this site and how the application has evolved over time. New Vista is a nonprofit organization that provides services for our intellectually challenged population. They provide assisted living opportunities that help these individuals ultimately live independent lives, independent living lives. They provide job skills. They provide a myriad of resources for these individuals, and they are just generally a huge part of our community in support of, again, our intellectually challenged population. They educate our community members. Frankly, they've educated me hugely as I've gone through this process on the relationship and the obligations that we have to these members of our society. In 2007, we represented them, and they came and asked the Planning Commission and ultimately the City Council to approve an expansion of what essentially already exists on property that was given to them some time ago, back in 1987. The property is located, just to orient you, on the southwest corner of Grand Teton and Rainbow. It's roughly 15 acres. What led up to that approval was several neighborhood meetings, primarily to educate the community as to what New Vista did and how they intended to live in the neighborhood and be neighborhood partners, and also to understand exactly what the neighbors that lived in the area were concerned about and how this project could coexist with them and not impact them adversely. That application was approved in 2007, and those approvals were extended in 2009. A lot has changed since 2007. The economy has changed a great deal, obviously, and New Vista's vision to some degree has changed. The application that was approved in 2007 was more of an assisted living type apartment residential community, and this site plan that's in front of you shows the before and after, and John is pointing to the before, or the approved application. His finger is right on the apartments that were approved. Just east of that is a community center, and then up here in the corner is a workshop, employment, training sort of center, and then over here is the existing residential component. One of the main functions of the existing residential facilities on the property is that they create sort of a social environment for the residents. They are centered around a courtyard. They're very residential in character. Frankly, if you drive by, it's hard to even notice they're there. In retrospect, after having gone through the process of beginning fundraising and those things for the project that was approved, New Vista decided, you know what, let's go back to our roots. Let's stay where we were when we originally started. Let's keep this thing very residential. Let's keep the social environment intact. So they've modified their proposal, and the application that is in front of you this evening is essentially the exact same thing, with the exception of the fact that it's much smaller in scale. As staff indicated, it's roughly 18,000 square feet smaller than what was originally approved, and the residential component is not an apartment-style living situation. It is exactly what is there today. It's one-story ranch-style homes that are spread around the entire property, as you can see, still centered around the garden area, the courtyard area, that is really such an important component of this what New Vista has to offer. Again, we had several neighborhood meetings leading up to the application that's before you today. The plan has been changed from what was originally submitted. When we began this process, we submitted the plans to staff, and the neighbors had some concerns with a couple things: the height of the buildings, the architectural elevations, if you will, of the community center and of the medical component. They had some concerns about the lighting. They had some concerns about the location of the community center. And again, they had some concerns about generally what sorts of activities were going to occur or plan to occur on this property. We had, again, the neighborhood meetings, and we made the modifications to address those concerns. We reduced the height of the community building. We changed the elevations, the architectural elevations of the community rec building to make them more residential in nature. We removed some of what the residents called commercial characteristics of the building. There were some roll-up doors. And again, we committed to the neighbors that this project is not a commercial project. It is a community It's a residential project that provides a service to, again, our intellectually challenged population. And that is all it is. The plan development document that is approved as part of this application is recorded against the property, and it reads specifically that retail commercial type operations are prohibited at this location. And I want to make sure that I've made that clear, again, for those neighbors that support us. So as a consequence of the changes that we made and the meetings that we had, we were lucky enough to enjoy the support of many of our neighbors that live east of Rainbow. As is typical with this process, we still have some folks that aren't completely comfortable with what we are proposing, and we understand their concerns. We respectfully disagree with them, but we do understand and we have heard them, and we've done our best to listen to everyone who has had a voice in this process and to consider all of their concerns and do what we can to mitigate every single person who has spoke. So without being too wordy, as I've already been, I'm just going to say for the record that I do have a couple additional letters of support that neighbors who were in attendance at the neighborhood meeting wanted me actually to read these into the record, and I don't know if that's necessary. They couldn't make it tonight, but they are letters in support from Mario Vecchio, Rural Westover, and I know he's here and he may speak, and Lee Perry. I will say, too, that I am working with our neighbor to the east and north, Sharon Leisenbart, and we are not in complete agreement at this point, but we are committed to continue to work with one another, and I am very confident that we will be able to come to some agreement as far as this application is concerned. But I did promise her that I would state for the record that she's not completely comfortable at this point, and again, we'll work together towards City Council. So with that, I'm here to answer questions, and I'll submit these letters for the record.
Thank you. I'd like to declare the public hearing open. Anyone in attendance wishing to speak on this matter, please approach the microphone and give your name for the record.
My name is Carol Peck. I'd like to ask if you all have been receiving the emails, because you mentioned Neil's letters, but you didn't mention any other. I know a number of my neighbors have sent letters and emails to y'all, and I didn't know, since you didn't address it, I didn't know if you'd received them.
I've not received any personally.
Okay. It goes to F. Flag.
That's not mine.
Mr. Chairman, if you will, there are a number of emails that I have received that we have printed out and included in the backup, which all of the planning commissioners have in front of them. So we have received those emails. They are included in the paper backup.
Thank you.
Okay. I would ask that you read them. There are a number of people that are still very much opposed to this. I'm here myself as president of the Steeplechase HOA, representing everybody in that neighborhood, and then several other people outside of our neighborhood. Many of them could not be here tonight, and frankly, a good number of them have given up. I'd like to have this entered into the record and passed out, if you would. I want to start by saying that New Vista has been a part of our community for a very long time, and we've coexisted beautifully. Our issue is not with the residential aspect of New Vista. Our issue is with a 52,000 square foot gym and a 21,000 square foot office building that everyone keeps assuring us is not going to go commercial, but then you have to ask yourself, what are they going to do with a 50,000 square foot gym? There's 15 offices in this gymnasium. I asked how many, they were supposed to be for New Vista corporate people, and I asked how many of those there were, and there's 4. Then beyond those in the gym, you now have a 21,000 square foot office building, which has craft area. They're teaching them crafts and everything, which is great. But it's still an awful lot of room for 76 residents. We went through many meetings with people saying this is strictly for residents and their immediate family. They even went so far as to read a definition of immediate family. Finally, at the last meeting, as we were about to leave, they did admit that this was going to be open to Southern Nevada. That's why they need the 52,000 square foot gym. So I've got to ask you guys how you would feel if someone had a gym in your neighborhood, had half the valley coming in here to work in the gym or to learn crafts or whatever. the traffic impact alone is going to be incredible. They also are allowed to have 16 fundraisers a year. That's more than one a month. I ask you again, is that something you'd want to have in your backyard once a month? The traffic, the people, the noise. It's not the community part that we have any issue with. It's the interference. It's the non-balance. All we're asking for is balance. We have a lovely residential area there, and we'd like to keep it that way. And if they're bringing people in to use other people than their 76 residents, I can't help but wonder if they're not being paid for the use of those facilities. And if that's the case, in my book, that becomes a commercial enterprise. So now we have a commercial enterprise, which Councilman Ross told Neil and I both in several meetings that would never happen in that area. But it now sets a precedent. So we're going to be back in here all the time fighting commercial development right across from our homes. So between the precedent and the size of these buildings, if they would reduce the size of the buildings so it makes some kind of sense for 76 people, that's another thing altogether. Have a gym. It's the size, it's the enormity of these buildings. They're putting it right on Grand Teton, which we understand they don't want traffic through their community. And we don't have an issue with the entrance being on Grand Teton. I think a number of people on Rainbow were concerned that they were going to have the entry on Rainbow because they were told if they made the change that would be what would happen. But that's not what we're asking. Grand Teton is a really natural entrance into this place. But if they won't reduce the size of the gym, then we're asking that they move it up against the orchard because we're quite certain the trees aren't going to mind looking at it, where the rest of us don't really care to do that. Our homes are our biggest investments. And as property values plummet in this valley anyway, this is just going to add to our concerns. So if they could move it against the orchard, and the maps I gave you, one is the proposal from New Vista. The other is one that one of my neighbors made up that shows how easily you could keep the entrance on Grand Teton, move the gym over, and still have parking and roads. And we were told the reason they didn't want to do that was because the children wanted to have an organic garden. Let me just ask for some balance here. I've got a house that's my most important investment against an organic garden that could be moved elsewhere. Fair's fair. So that's all we're asking. We're just asking for somebody to understand that we're quite frightened by all of this, really. It's going to ruin our property values. It's going to have us in here every other day fighting about commercial development on that street. And so we ask you to please reconsider this proposal, either take them back to the table or ask for the changes that we're asking you to make. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in attendance wishing to speak, please approach the microphone, sir.
My name is David Watson. I'm a Steeplechase resident. And when I attended the planning information meeting last month, I was surprised to find a lawyer leading the meeting. I honestly would have thought that the management of New Vista, having worked on this all these years and intimately acquainted with it, would have been the people at the front of the room. The lawyer, however, was extremely well informed and answered most all the questions in many areas from all over the room, except there was one significant question that was just simply sidestepped. And Neil Galitz, whom you mentioned earlier, had sent a letter to the lawyer simply asking that New Vista sign a contract with the neighborhoods that they would not use the property for commercial purposes. And when that came up, there was no answer provided, rather that the letter hadn't been clearly understood, even though it's a single page, and would be reviewed. My understanding is, as of tonight, no response has come to that letter, and simply agreeing to a contract would surely solve the major issue of the neighbors. Personally, I applaud 100% the mission of New Vista and the good that they are doing. But the idea that 76 residents need a medical building, freestanding, that is the size of a 400-bed teaching hospital emergency room that I used to work in is really questionable. And the multiplicity of offices in the gym, 15 offices plus for 76 residents, just begs the question of, is this a commercial structure waiting to be unveiled down the road? My request is that this not be approved until a contract exists, stating in contract form that it will not be used commercially, or that the size of the adjunctive buildings be reduced to the size that would suitably support 76 people in need. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak?
My name is Pam Bailey. I live at 6665 Joe Marcy Drive. I live straight down the street from New Vista. I'm probably one of the most affected in presence here and in the community. My property is approximately 660 feet off of their entrance. My street lines up with their entrance. I support this plan. When they went in 2006, I was the person that opposed it because it was not compatible. They've come back with a plan that is exactly what we requested 5 years ago. They've done what we've requested as far as breaking down the apartments, making it more compatible with the neighborhood, and that I did have some concerns at the first neighborhood meeting. They've addressed every one of my concerns and agreed to them, so they've been very cooperative in that sense. And while we're all here tonight, I want to remind everyone that we all make choices. New Vista had a vision back in 1987. I purchased my property in 1988, and I received a disclosure statement telling me exactly what their intentions were and what their dream was. My husband and I chose an open area where our kids were free to do what they wanted to do. We didn't have to worry about what color our house was because nobody cared. It was open. It was the freedom of choice to do as we chose, and whether we wanted horses or whatever. And that was a choice we made. There are other people in the audience tonight that aren't comfortable with that choice. They've chosen to live in gated communities surrounded by a wall with an HOA, CC&Rs, and that to protect them from their next door neighbor painting their house purple or whatever. I chose the freedom of, if my next door neighbor does it, that's what I have to live with. I think it's time that we allow New Vista to have their vision come true, and I feel that their board has worked really hard at making a plan that is most conducive to the lifestyle of their residents who have been out there longer than any of us in the room have been in the neighborhood. So I do support this plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Hi, my name's Roel Westover. I'm at 7685 North Rainbow Boulevard. And I live at one of the houses, actually the closest address on Rainbow is the same side of New Vista. I've been to most of all the meetings, and I'm really happy with the way the representatives for New Vista has approached this over the last few years, taking everyone's thoughts and considerations into the planning. As you can see, where it was when it was first approved and where it is now with individual houses, it's changed completely. There's only about 6 of us from Farm down to Grand Teton who actually live in that R&P right on Rainbow. All of us are in agreement with where they've located the houses and where they've decided to locate the gym on Grand Teton.
And by doing so, keeping Rainbow as a rural road as it is today. But I am in support, and I'm happy with the site plan. And by doing that, allowing the walking trails and the ranches and the equestrian trails to be where they're at. We look forward to making the new residents of New Vista Ranch a special part of our community and neighborhood while keeping North Rainbow the beautiful rural road it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in attendance wishing to speak? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed then and offer the opportunity for the proponents to answer any of the questions they think that came up that would
Sure.
be appropriate.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Just real briefly, first of all, I just want to say that I appreciate everyone who spoke and shared their opinion with respect to this project. Those that spoke in support, I especially, of course, commend because they're on my side, but also I want to say to them, I appreciate them coming forward and standing out because I've spoken with them a great deal over the last couple months, and this is a neighborhood, and these are their neighbors that they're standing up against, and it's a hard thing to do, and I really admire them for their courage standing up here today, and I have to say, from their perspective, it is courageous. As far as the size of the buildings, I said this at the neighborhood meeting, and I don't know how to say it enough. We need a building tall enough to accommodate a basketball court. We need a building large enough to accommodate a pool, a regular sized pool. We need a building large enough to accommodate all of the workshop areas that will teach these folks skills so that they can have opportunities for renewal of employment. That's really all this is about. It is not an intention to someday turn the project into a commercial enterprise. I do want to make it clear, though, the ultimate build-out is a plan to accommodate 76 residents and their caregivers and the family that will visit those residents. But this New Vista campus will be available, open and available to the intellectually challenged population of our community. So when we talk about serving 76 residents, yes, those are the folks that will live there, but it will serve a larger population, and I don't want to be unclear about that. I want that to be very clear because I think that that needs to be obvious that we are serving more than just the 76 residents. In terms of the contract, Mr. Galitz did ask me if New Vista would be interested in entering or willing to enter into a private contract pledging that there would never be any commercial activities on the site. And I've personally struggled with that, and I'll tell you why. I think the system, the land use, the administrative process set up to regulate land use is set up for a reason, and it's set up to protect residents and property owners and developers. And there is a mechanism by which we, as property owners or developers, can go to the city and complain and require code enforcement to come out when somebody isn't using their property the way they should. Commercial is not allowed on this property. It is inconsistent with the zoning district, and it is inconsistent with the document, the planning document that is recorded against this site. If someone engages in commercial enterprise on this property, inconsistent with those rules and regulations, they can walk down to city code enforcement and file a complaint, and city code enforcement will follow through on that complaint. If I were to enter into, or New Vista was to enter into a private contract, the remedy would be, for violation of that contract, would be the court system, which we all know is very expensive. And I frankly just don't think that that system is designed to protect the residents like the planning system is. I also think there's a ton of variables we can't pin down. Who would be party to that contract? What if those parties changed? Would the contract get recorded? What are the terms of default? I think that there's just a lot of variables that make that remedy not ideal. But if you tell me that you want me to go back to New Vista and to consider entering into a contract to pledge that there will be not commercial activities on this property, I will do that, if that's what this Planning Commission wants me to do. I just personally think that there are too many problems with that, and I think that the residents are, in fact, protected with the system that's in place today. So I think I've addressed all the questions. If I haven't, no? Okay.
The question of the repositioning of the gymnasium,
Okay.
what's the objection to that?
Right. If you look at the before and after, real quickly, John. The community recreation building was always positioned towards Grand Teton. You've heard this evening there's different factions in the neighborhood. Some are in support of it where it is currently located today, which is similar to what was previously approved, nearer to Grand Teton. Is that clear to you guys? Can you see the building and then where it was previously? The footprint is right here, and then now it's here. And then there are those folks who feel that should not be moved, that it should be moved, that it should be placed adjacent to the drainage channel. We had to take into consideration everybody and how this project would impact them. And there are a number of reasons, not just the organic garden, that this is placed strategically. I will say, though, that it is set back 100 feet. Is it 100 or 120 feet, John? The building footprint is set back from the property line.
It's 100 feet from Grand Teton and 200 feet from Rainbow.
It's 100 feet from Grand Teton, 120-foot right-of-way, and 200 feet from Rainbow. And let's look at the elevation that gives you a perspective of what you would be looking at. This kind of gives you an idea, because visual perspective is an important component of this. When you're talking about a building that's placed 100 feet in one point and 200 feet in another back from the rights-of-way or the adjacent visible rights-of-way, the perspective that you ultimately see is much more residential in character than you would envision when you think of it on a one-dimensional plan. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, like I said, we had to weigh all of the considerations that were presented to us. I understand Mrs. Peck's concerns, and I believe they are in fact mitigated by the fact that the building is set so far back, first thing. And second thing, the maximum height of this building is 42 feet at peak, but the mass of the building is 35 feet. That is no higher than a two-story building. Most residential homes, the maximum height in residential zoning district is 35 feet. Some residential two-story homes are a little less than 30. But generally speaking, we're talking about the height of a two-story home. And I think that that's very consistent with the residential character that surrounds this neighborhood. There's some other considerations, and we can go into them. It would change if we change the location of the, if we push it up towards the drainage channel. It's going to bifurcate the campus. It's going to take away that sort of centering around one common element that is very important. That's the thing that I mentioned in the beginning, that sort of social environment that the campus layout creates when you position the homes adjacent to one another and you don't separate them. That's the first thing. The second thing, it's changed the access to the orchard. I did hear feedback, and I'm sorry for not being more specific, from some of the residents about why this was important to them, and it has to do with a lot of different things. Not just how far away the building is from the street, but I guess what I'm trying to illustrate here is that we had to weigh a lot of different considerations. And so we're here before you asking you to approve what we believe is a compromise site plan. If you feel that it is better positioned in another location, we'll take a look at that. But we do believe that this is the best location for that building, and does in fact consider everybody that is impacted by this development.
Thank you. Okay, the public hearing is now closed, so I can turn the matter over to the Planning Commission for discussion and possible motion.
If I could just make a few comments before Mr. Moody goes with his motion, and I want to say to Mrs. Peck, I heard you loud and clearly. I wanted to ask Ms. Tabitha, when Ms. Peck mentioned 16 fundraisers, I imagine it being more like like the Night of Hope or the March of Dimes or something, where you're going to be doing these fundraisers in hotels or off property, or I can't imagine you doing 16 fundraisers at this facility. Am I correct in saying that?
Well, you're correct in saying that there will be off-site fundraisers. That's part of what New Vista does. I mean, they're constantly trying to raise money to do what they do, but we do envision on-site fundraisers too. Okay. And I can read to you, depending on, I mean, this build-out, and maybe we should show you the phasing plan, because it is not intended that if you were to be so inclined to approve this project and City Council was to do the same, that we would go out with shovels and start building all the square footage that's
Tabitha,
approved.
what I'm trying to say is once a month, you're not going to have 6,000 people
Right,
there raising
you're
money.
absolutely right,
Because
yes.
I understand fundraising, and it just doesn't work on the property.
Right,
So-
that's true.
Okay.
But if it's what about like a wine tasting?
Right.
That could be on property.
Wonderful.
And that's one of the things that
right.
we asked for. And there's things we might not envision that could be on property that would be
Right.
consistent. I just don't want to be disingenuous.
I'm
But
just
yes,
gonna,
you're right.
I'm just going to make a comment here because I'm a little bit wherewithal about the needs of Nevada for people with special challenges. And we are probably in the lowest of states for these type of facilities in the United States of America. And with the budget cuts and everything that's gone on in our state, we have people that have nowhere to go to ever accommodate their needs such as this. And when you say you're going to have 74 residents, but you're going to be bringing people in, it only tells me you're going to be helping more. I'm fortunate enough that my son is not intellectually incapable of learning and working, so I get this big. I think that this place has been a talk of the town for over 10 years, long before I was on this planning commission, and I'm so excited to see it built. And I'm not excited just to see it built for the people that get to live there. I'm excited to see it built for the people that get to get services there, because there are not enough in the city. And if people look at the statistics of what we have here, we'll be ashamed. So you're going to see my full support on the buildings, you're going to see my full support on the residential, and I cannot wait to be there when you cut the ribbon. Thank you.
I have a question for staff. If somebody's got their GPS system, where is the Silverstone Ranch entrance? Is it coming? Do people enter into Silverstone Ranch off of Grand Teton?
That's the gated entrance right there.
So it's a distance to the west. How high is the wall that goes around Silverstone Ranch? Is it an 8-foot wall? Anybody live there?
Part of it's brick wall, a lot of it is wrought iron, so you can see straight through it. The part across from New Vista is wrought iron.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's consistent with the trails plan that the city has adopted that has the combination wrought iron and block wall, plus 20 feet of landscaping.
Plus 20 feet of landscaping?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Now I have it into perspective as to what's going on. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could make a few comments. It seems to me that the name of this project is particularly apropos. A new vista, it's a new view for this community, and I have to say that what you have done and the changes that you've agreed to make in conformity with the request from the neighbors are really nice. This is going to be a beautiful project. You're here today asking for less than what you had approved 4 years ago. The height of the center has been reduced. Parking spaces have come down from 343 to about 100 spaces. One of the building's architectural enhancements using gables and eliminating rolling doors has made it more compatible with the neighborhood and the development generally. There's going to be low-level walking path lighting. You've agreed to concrete roofing tiles to enhance the beauty. I think you've stated, and I would like to hear this on the record, that the medical building will not be open to the public, that it's for the residents that will be on site. Is that correct?
Right. The medical building would be available to the residents, but it would also be available to New Vista members.
Okay, very
Yes,
good.
but not to the public. It won't be like a quick care or something like that where you can come and check in. It's not to be a public enterprise.
So if I can just paint a small picture for some of my fellow commissioners who may not have been at the neighborhood meeting that I attended a few weeks ago, a woman had some comments, and she was there with her younger daughter who is intellectually challenged. And I heard from that daughter who talked about the opportunity to come here with her friends and participate in the types of plans and events that that you can have in this community center. And I just can't understand cutting down a full gym to a half-size gym. You know, there are certain activities, whether you have 60 people or 200 people, that you need that full gymnasium for. And I appreciate what you're doing here, and I think you have made a lot of concessions to make this work, and you will see my support on this project tonight.
Just a couple comments. I had the pleasure of sitting at a couple of those neighborhood meetings as well, and I see the project has been reduced significantly. And again, these issues are always tough because we're dealing with folks in the community. We're in some trying times now where people have concerns about their money, about their investments, about their property. But we do know one thing for sure, is that we have to make an investment in our future in this community. And that future starts with our children. And it doesn't matter whether they're intellectually handicapped, doesn't matter whether they're able-bodied youth. That's our future. And if we don't put some type of investment in our future, I don't know what our property values will look like going down the road. What I'm hearing is objection from one community tonight. That seems to be the people at Steeplechase. And I think Ms. Bailey kind of put it in perspective. You chose to live behind those walls. You got the HOA. They tell you when to put your trash out and do everything else. Some folks chose to live in the rural area where they could come out, and if you happen to get a barn next door, you knew what you bargained for going in. So how do we make the folks at Steeplechase feel comfortable and also confident that their investment is not going to dwindle anymore because of a New Vista vision? And I think that's where we're at today. I noticed looking at the plans, this project has been reduced by 18,175 square feet. So you've taken a big building and you've broken it down into what, 9 or 10 smaller buildings?
9.
Okay.
Additional to what we have, yeah.
And that was the plan that was shown at the neighborhood meetings, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So I see substantial reduction. I hear the concern of the people from Steeplechase. My concern is that, again, like Commissioner Quinn say, you won't have a day where you may have 6,000 people here. But if you have 76 residents, and let's just say on a Saturday night social, everybody brings 2 people, that puts 152 people onto the property. If each one of those 76 residents brought 3 people, that's 228 people onto the property. So what I'm hearing from the Steeplechase folks is they don't want to see an influx of folks coming in there. And they also have the concern, and I think I heard this at the meeting when we were doing some comparisons to what happens at Opportunity Village. And we talked about, are they going to be making brooms? Are they going to be making any type of commercial product that's going to require on sales on the property? The answer was no. And so I've heard you a couple of times here today say this is absolutely, emphatically not a commercial site. And if that's what you're going to stick with, I can support that. But I do side with the neighbors as well out of Steeplechase that, you know, it's not commercial, but could it look like commercials going on? And could there be something going on? So can you clarify for me what types of, I don't know if you call them uses, or what types of activities in terms of any type of assembly line production will be going on at that site? And if that does go on, is that used for commercial? Is it used for training? What exactly is going to happen during the day-to-day activities on that site?
Sure, Commissioner. First of all, I mean, I will say that it is a quasi-public facility we're talking about. So I understand what you're saying, and I understand what the neighbors are saying. When you talk about commercial versus non-commercial, and you're looking at a 52,000 square foot gym, I mean, no one has a 52,000 square foot gym in their backyard. So I appreciate that. There is the quasi-public nature of this does lend itself to a larger facility that serves a larger population, and that is what it is. The business enterprise, what is formerly the business enterprise component of this, is we changed the name to Employment Workshop. What that is it's an environment, a space to teach these folks ways to earn money off-site. They also have a thrift store, New Vista does, on West Charleston, and if they make things on the property, they will be sold at the thrift store or someplace else. They will not be sold on-site. So the kinds of things that are listed, and just in case it wasn't clear earlier, as part of this, because it's a planned development, there is a document that was negotiated with the city and approved by the city attorney and also staff that kind of, does in fact dictate the way this project functions. And in there it says that these workshops will promote the training of the residents of New Vista in skills including but not limited to arts and crafts, painting, woodworking, ceramics, sculpture, stained glass, and jewelry. Those are some examples. So it's just that. It's a workshop. It's a training spot where you got to bring in the tools that it takes to teach those skills, but you're not selling the products of your labor on site.
So let me ask another question then. Since it's open to all of Southern Nevada, if you're having a training going on, will it be acceptable to bring in, say, an average school bus holds about 56 kids. Let's say that you have a couple of agencies in Southern Nevada that want to come over and partake in some training. Is it conceivable that you could see 3 bus loads of kids coming over to partake in this training?
Yes.
Okay.
It is.
Because can that happen on a daily basis, or is that a weekly basis, or at a monthly, or because I think that's what the steeplechase people are kind of getting towards, that it may not look commercial, but it's doing some things that's bringing lots of traffic in and out of the neighborhood.
At its ultimate build-out, yes, and this is a phased project that will be phased over the next 20 years. At its ultimate build-out, and the recreational workshop component is at the end of this phase, you could see monthly, not daily, a training session where, and it is limited to the population that's intellectually challenged. It's not just all Southern Nevada. It's not like a community center where
no, but I mean, at the meeting, we talk. I mean, we talked about how Opportunity Village started in a small location, and now it occupies a campus on the same property with well, not on the same property, but it abuts College of Southern Nevada. That's a lot going on that campus, and so I understand this is a 20-year build-out. What's your first phase going to consist of?
The first phase is the medical component and 1 residential house, and I'll show you the phasing plan. And just to respond to that, if you'll let me, I understand what you're saying, and I think that because it is a quasi-public facility, that is definitely a consideration, and more power to them. I hope that happens for New Vista, that they are bringing in so much money and servicing so many intellectually challenged people in this community. They get so big they just don't fit into this community or into this neighborhood, and that could happen. But what we're proposing for this neighborhood isn't an Opportunity Village. It is definitely open to the intellectually challenged community, and they would like to provide opportunities to teach them some skills. But this is the document as it is set up today, and the zoning district prevents traditionally commercial activity on the property, and if it gets that way, then they have to find a new home. And there are mechanisms to protect the neighbors and to ensure that doesn't happen.
2 more questions. What's your second phase, and what's your third phase?
This is a color-coded phase 1, as John's pointing to in red, is 1 additional residential building, 4,000 square feet, in the medical component, which is about 2,300 square feet. And then phase 2, more residential, and phase 3 residential, and phase 4 residential, and then the recreation center and the workshop skills center is phase 5 and 6.
Very good. Again, I looking at your rendering, and you know, I understand the neighbors at Steeplechase understand planning, but when you look at that plan and you look at the street widths there, and you look at the landscape, I think the plan depicts a non-intrusive landscape plan, which I think provides that security and that buffer for the neighbors. And I also believe that New Vista, having been a neighbor out there for years, and I actually live in the area. I'm kind of at the Jones, and I'm at Jones and Brent, Jones and Horse up in that area. So I go by there every day to and fro. But I believe in their mission. I believe in their cause. They've been good neighbors. Father Flanagan's Boys Town is out there as well. It just seems that this corner has now become a pocket for those youth that need special care, but also they don't need special care. They just need to have an environment that they can grow in. I like the fact that it's out in the rural area where youth and communities can come together and do things. And I think at the end of the day, I think you'll see that the whole community out there will be happy once this is in. And so those would be my comments.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I do have a few questions that, because I'm looking at your plan here, and what shows existing business incubator I know has changed to what's the new name?
Employment workshop.
Okay.
Right.
And I know
Education employment workshop.
And I understand Commissioner Goins' reference to, I guess, at the public meeting, the question of Opportunity Village is kind of a comparison model. My concerns, the residential facility I think is phenomenal, and your phasing actually shows that the residential is what's needed, and really, if fundraising is never there, you'll have a great residential, and the rest of these issues that are raised we'll never be talking about. And I'm not saying I believe in the mission of New Vista, and I agree that we don't have enough facilities for our physically or emotionally or mentally challenged residents and their families to interact. And as a community, we're deficient there, no question. But when I look at Steeplechase, and I look through Mr. Gallett's letter, and I look at what a lot of the discussions we've had about Gilcrease Ranch when the high school was going in, and trying to blend the density of these uses in the rural character of what's out here is difficult. But when you use this somewhat comparison to Opportunity Village and you represent the non-commercial use, I guess is where I kind of have a little more of a hurdle here. To me, serving the community is great, but there's the possibility of slipping into a commercial use. Does this become a facility that takes those 16 events a year that Commissioner Quinn referenced, that New Vista won't be used? No organizations run that kind of, no matter how great their fundraising. But technically, and this may be our city attorney, does it step into a commercial venture if they rent that facility to a third party to have their fundraising event at that location? Because in looking at the reduced size here, I go, great, they're reducing the size of the development. That was my biggest concern originally, was it was too big. Mm-hmm. But in reducing the size, you reduce the parking. Every parking space you reduced off the site, if they have a successful event, those people will be parking in that dirt lot across the street, parking along Rainbow, parking like if you go to Opportunity Village during the Christmas time. I challenge people to not find the danger in people taking their little kids across the street. It's scary. And in a rural area out here where lighting is lower, it becomes more scary. So I'm concerned that these commercial that are classified as non-commercial things, if you are going to do jobs training and they're going to make wood items, and those could be a myriad of things. They can make sculptures and all those things that are great training tools. And if they're making them to be sold in their thrift shop, does that mean we have large trucks bringing supplies in the morning and taking finished product out at night? That to me is an acceptable model for some organizations, but in this neighborhood, I think blurs that line of what is a commercial venture. The other part is we have the basketball facility, the training facility. Do they use this as a fundraising tool for their community and suddenly rent it out to have the area out here as leagues? So it has late night leagues. Those are the questions I'd like to answer, because those do get into whether we just put this on the planning, our zoning laws, and our code enforcement. And trust me, nothing is harder to enforce is code violations against a nonprofit organization. You might as well, papers by ink by the gallons, or hundreds of gallons. So once this gets functioning and once it's open, this isn't something that, well, they squeezed over the line here, they squeezed over the line there. So try to answer some of the questions with regard to the commercial, if we can anticipate those type of variances to this thing.
Okay, a couple things, and I might need some help on one of the answers, but as far as the size of these events and the parking, that was something we talked about a lot the last time. And we decided through our discussions with the neighbors at the time that they would be limited to a maximum of 16 events, period, no matter who's hosting the event. So if they were trying to rent it out or whatever, which is not contemplated, but it would be a maximum. And they need additional land use, city approval in order to hold the special events. They still need to get a special event permit in order to have the event on site. So maximum, this is pie in the sky, maximum 16 events, first of all. And second of all, when we talked about the nature of what New Vista does and how they fundraise, the neighbors said we showed 340 parking spaces to accommodate larger events like you're concerned about. And the neighbors said, you know what, if you're going to have the type of fundraising, you're going to have a Special Olympics, a day of Special Olympics, or you're going to have a wine tasting, or you're going to have a ball, and you need the facilities to do that. We don't mind if people park in our neighborhood. We don't want a property that has that can accommodate 340 parking spaces that would encourage the sort of events that you're concerned about, Commissioner Truesdale. As far as the size of the events, do you have anything to add from John?
Well, the plan development document limits the use of this to members. And again, the definition is members are those intellectually challenged individuals living in southern Nevada and their immediate families and guardians. So based on a definition, I don't think you're looking at, you're not looking at amateur sports leagues. I mean, you'd be looking at like Special Olympic events. I mean, would be open to that, but it'd be very limited, as far as that type of activity.
Yeah, and there's part of my concern is the devil's in the details here. When you say 16 events a year, what if they're week-long events and you have 60 of them for different organizations? That's a question mark that I don't think the neighbors, it changes my perspective on this. So I was looking for some clarity in this change. Because when this came through before, I thought we would never see this back again. I thought they'll raise their money, they'll do their development, they'll deliver what they're planning community. But now it's back before us again. And in addition, the second item here is we want to do away with landscaping, we want to do away with the trail, the 579. Those issues no one's brought up yet. And I have some concerns that we're getting rid of conditions that were in place to make sure this is the right development for the area.
Okay, Commissioner, understood. And let me just say something now. We want to address your concerns related to this not being a commercial enterprise. We want to be compatible. New Vista wants to stay there. They've been there for 15 plus years. They want to stay there and be there. in perpetuity. So we got to figure out a way to be compatible with the neighborhood. So if we aren't addressing sufficient enough for you in our conditions, the commercial component, we will do that. The second thing is, with respect to the conditions, 579, we are not eliminating landscaping. All that is related to is the fact that we asked staff to allow the off-site improvements to be phased, and so the corresponding landscaping that was a condition of the previous approval has to be phased with it. So it is absolutely 100% not a waiver of any conditions of the previous approval, and the document that was approved that governs the use of this property is exactly as it was before, with the exception of the fact that we're reducing it in scope. And I think Paul Kenner, he's a member of the New Vista Board, is going to address some of your concerns.
One thing specifically that I think is very important is, I know there's, it's been stated a few times with regard to renting this facility will not be rented. It's any event that occurs here will be a New Vista event, and as it pertains to the fundraising and the charity events, which New Vista has, it's really integral in our public awareness. We have, we've done partnerships and holding events from Lake Las Vegas to numerous hotels along the Strip, Boca Park, Town Center. Those are occurring to date, have for the last 5 years. Those are events need to be in those places. That's where the gathering places are. That's what they're designed for that. And we have no intention of changing that, because part of these events is really public awareness. It's not that, that it is, we need to hold it in a bigger place. It's more of location and accessibility, because our partners with that, they want that to occur in those locations. And so we actually, this is really critical about more of New Vista and its members. That's this place and the being that's going to occur there is really more about them. And one of the things that is a component of this that you might, that it is a challenge in how we address certain issues is there's very few organizations that do like what we do. We have a respite program that basically allows other individuals or families that have an intellectually challenged individual to go on trips. Now, we don't limit it just to New Vista. We do that for the whole community. Our last couple Christmases for our events, we've invited the other organizations that do the same that we do to join us at our expense. And so there's certain things that occur that we like to open up and provide that opportunity to participate, but it's by no means are we trying to, it's like, expand, and growth isn't what we're about. We're about quality, and we hope that that's a continuation of what we're going to do here.
Okay, and I appreciate your comments. Not that Ms. Fitteman hasn't.
Oh, he did way better.
or your architect, but it's important to hear the passion of the people that run the organization, because that gets down to, can we feel comfortable? Because we're making some decisions here that are only as good as the people implementing them. And staff can do everything right, and we can still have a problem out there. And nobody wants to just be, code enforcement's not the answer in this. But you operating the organization, and I appreciate it. I think it's wonderful that it's a place for, families to, bring their kids and their loved ones, because some of them are, some of the kids are beyond kids. But I think it is a phenomenal program, and I support it. I just wanted to get on the record some of the comments with regards to some of these items that you're asking for, because I think how you answer them helps the neighbors understand what they should expect.
And I think it's all about, it's this process, and it's communicating. And I think, even though we are not able to solve every comment that has been, brought to us, trust me, I was part of trying to make some of those changes that have been requested by the neighbors and considering them. But when it is, just like Tabitha had mentioned, they have not been going, we've gone through the drill of looking at it and evaluating, and we've tried to accommodate as much as we can. And we're not going to change that process. I mean, you know, we want to be close to the neighbors and be a part of that community. And I think, you know, it is a commitment as strong. You know, the thing is just what you said too, is the passion of the people. You know, it would be so hard for me to stand here and talk about it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your answers, and you had my support. I thought it was important that we bring out the information that addressed the various components that were asked for us tonight. So thank you very much.
Any other commissioners have a comment, or we ready for a motion?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. With regard to item 17, major modification 41437, I move to follow staff's recommendation for approval with all conditions.
Motion has been made. Please cast your votes.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. I just want to say for the neighbors in the audience that those conditions reflect the changes that we made after the first neighborhood meeting. I just want to make sure they understand that.
Thank you. Please post. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 18.
With regard to item 18, review of condition 40981, also following staff's recommendations for approval with conditions.
Motion has been made. Please cast your votes. Post. Motion carries.
Finally, Mr. Chairman, item 19, site development plan review 40980. Motion is for approval with all conditions.
Motion's been made. Please cast your vote. Post. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, these items will go forward to the City Council on the October 19th agenda.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. Good evening.
Thank you. We now move to item number 20, which is a variance 41882. The applicant owner is Donald E. Newby for possible action on a request for a variance to allow a front yard setback of 45 feet where 50 feet is required for an existing porch on the main dwelling and to allow an existing accessory structure, Class 2, that is not aesthetically compatible with metal with the main dwelling, stucco, to be 14 feet in height where 10 feet is 6 inches is allowed, to be located 4 feet from the main dwelling where 6 feet is required, and for the total building area of all accessory structures to be 2,256 square feet, where 854 square feet is the maximum allowable at 5312 Elkhorn Road. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, this request is to allow existing structures, including a front porch that extends into the required front yard setback area, and an accessory structure located at the side of the residence that does not meet Title 19 requirements for height, materials, separation from the residence, and building area restrictions. Both structures were built without first obtaining the required building permits. The accessory structure is highly visible from the public right-of-way, and staff is recommending denial of the request as the applicant has provided no evidence of unique or extraordinary circumstances pursuant to Title 1916 that would substantiate the requested variance.
Thank you. Now I'd like to declare the public hearing open. Anyone in attendance wish to speak on this matter, please approach the microphone and give your name for the record.
Donald Newby, 5312 Elkhorn Road. First, I'd like to say thank you to Mr. Goins for, I was not able to make the prior meetings. I've been working out of town. And he did bring up some great things, and I thank you very much for that. I do, if it weren't for your comments, my wife would have not known exactly what to say here.
Very welcome.
At that particular time, Commissioner Moody wanted to have a neighborhood meeting. We did hold the neighborhood meeting, at which 2 people showed up too. All those that are in total, totally not wanting this to be there, that structure, did not show up to voice their opinion whatsoever. 2 people in support did. Prior to all the meetings that started all this from that, all the neighbors on that map right there, actually, from the entrance into the community going directly in front of my house Elkhorn there. 95% of those neighbors, I went and knocked on their door, spoke with them personally. They all signed a letter that you guys, in the first meeting, realized you finally had them. I don't know that anybody actually had read them. Nobody there had seemed to have a problem with it. They have direct visual contact with the structure. All my surrounding neighbors in the RE properties around there also signed letters and statements stating that they had no problem with that. I personally, I bought a structure that is made and designed for that purpose, to cover and protect something. As far as the accessory structure square footage thing, I've got horses that are, the majority of my accessory structure is covering my horses. I don't know how that becomes an accessory structure to provide shade for animals. I don't know where that falls in the line of actually being an accessory structure to provide humane shade for animals in this desert heat. So I've got somewhat of a problem with that. I did not pull a permit, not understanding I needed one. Front patio, I will bow down to that one. I knew that I should probably get a permit on that. I just put it up. But the other one is a freestanding structure. Did not think that I needed it for a freestanding structure for, and I probably should have done my due diligence and checked into this, which I did not. You suggested last time, what are we willing to do to make it appealing to the area there in the first meeting, which was great. I thought that was fantastic. I'm willing to do whatever you guys suggest that we need to do. We take pride in our house. If anybody's driven by there, you live on that side of town. If anybody's driven by there and looked at the other houses on the block, we put a lot of time, effort, and money into our property to make sure that it is visually appealing. Now, is that visually appealing? Some may say no, some may say yes. I don't have a problem with it because it's designed for what it is. It's protecting an investment. It has also made my, believe it or not, my power bills are going down because the west side of my house is getting shade that it never had before. Yes, I'm willing to do whatever the commission sees fit to, we got the buses with all these advertisements on it. I can do a sky with trees right there and shrink wrap it. I can do many things so it's not one big tan piece of metal there. There's things that we can do that will make it more appealing and less visible. I've done everything that the commission has asked. We held a neighborhood meeting. Commissioner Moody was there. I did not make that. I've made several plane flights to make it here to do these things, and got held up in Tucson because of lightning storms and couldn't leave there to make it to the neighborhood meeting. And my wife has made it to every one of these things. God bless her. But I'm here today. So, in fact, I even left early today and paid the extra $123 so I'd be here on time today. So, anyways, I bought a structure that is made for what it's intended for. I'm sure that there's some people who don't like it. I happen to like it. It's my lifestyle. I've been a rural person my whole life. I'm used to seeing things like this, and so for me, maybe it's not that bit obtrusive. To somebody else, I could see maybe where it is. But we're willing to do whatever you think we can do. We have no input from the neighbors. The people that are really hating this thing aren't really saying a lot. So, I got a $6,000 investment sitting there, so what do I do? You know what I mean? I'm trying to do everything I can do. Yes, I should have done my due diligence. I'm right there with you guys, but did not. So.
Thank you. I went to college in Texas, brother. I'm with you.
So, anyways.
Okay.
That would be.
Thank you. The public hearing is now open. Anyone in attendance who wishes to speak on the matter, please approach the microphone and give your name for the record. Mr. Farlow.
Thank you. Todd Farlow, 240 North 19th Street. This is the fourth one of these exact structures that we've seen within the last few months. And I'm wondering, somebody must be out there promoting them. But I'd like to ask the applicant, what kind of tree is that's growing there? And the reason I ask that is this. If that tree is going to grow up to be, say, 70, 80-foot honey locust or something like that, it will branch over that structures to the point where you won't even see it. And it will also provide shade and cooling there too. That's just an idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed and invite turn the matter over to the planning commissioners for discussion, possible motion.
Mr. Newby, did you say that this structure protected horses?
No, one of the things on here is the amount of square foot I have is in accessory structures. By adding this, it's cutting to my accessory structure thing, but the majority of my accessory structure is, if you look behind that, on the west side of the house, that long length that says covers the horses or horse stalls, or I don't know what I have, I can't even see. That is the majority of my accessory structure covers, is to cover my horses. I mean, it is almost all of it. I don't know why that becomes an accessory structure if it's actually covering animals. I don't know what the law is pertaining to that, but I mean, I think I'm required to provide shade for my horses, if I'm not mistaken. I provide 100% shade for them, so they get early morning sun and afternoon sun, so that they're not in the heat during the whole day. So,
Mr. Chair, if I could ask staff to put something on the overhead. Mr. and Mrs. Newby, thank you. I did ask for you to postpone this so you could have a neighborhood meeting, which is exactly what you did. There was no opposition at that meeting. In fact, we've gone back and looked at who has, that's really, it's not showing the color very well, but what this,
I can see the color from here.
You can see it, we can't see it very well, but what this shows is that every one of your surrounding neighbors is in support of this. Although there are a few protests, they're quite a ways outside of your immediate area. The question you asked was, what can you do to make this a little more aesthetically pleasing? Mr. Farlow raised a really good point, and that is put some shrubbery and trees maybe around this to block it a little bit. Do what you can. But
if you look at the other pictures, I've got a access gate that's on that side of the house that runs parallel with the edge of the probably the regular view pictures, the actual photos. Yep. If you're looking at, oh heavens, do I even have it on there?
Now, you're going to have to tell us because we can't see your finger pointing on there. So left, right,
okay,
center.
Sorry. So anyways, there's a driveway that goes back there, and the structure edges one side of it, and I have the planter that's on the other side of it, and I have a 12-foot gate there to access the backyard for the horseshoe or for hay, for all my deliveries. If I were to plant any trees on that particular side, it cuts down with that accessibility to the backyard. We do have the one tree in the front. And I can't plant anything on the 4-foot side on the other side because I've got a wall there, and if I put any kind of tree or anything else it's going to do is it's too close to my other neighbor on that other side. Like I said, I can paint a different color. I'm willing to pay for a shrink wrap on there to make it look like there's trees on there. I mean,
I don't think we want a shrink wrap. No,
yeah.
No. You've done what I've asked in light of the support immediately around you, although I really don't like that structure very much. I'm one that doesn't believe it's very harmonious with the other structures around you, but I'm satisfied that this would be an appropriate land use, and so for all the reasons I've stated, you're going to get my support tonight, and thank you.
Thank you.
You ready for a motion?
I am. I'll make the motion, Mr. Chair, to with regard to item 20, variance 41882, for approval with conditions.
Motion has been made. Please cast your votes. Post. And the motion carries.
And Mr. Chairman, this item is final action in the absence of an appeal within 10 days.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we now move on to item number 21 and companion item 22. 21 is a review of condition 42-233. The applicant owner is Sterling Park Owners Association for possible action on a request for a review condition to delete condition number 2 on an approved plot plan building elevation review, zoning 0050-905, which is required to submit a master sign plan for the Department of Community Planning and Development for review and approval prior to the issuance of building permits for any individual on-premises sign at 7400 through 7580 West Sahara Avenue. Item number 22 is variance 42234. The applicant owner, Benson A. Bertoldo, LLC, for possible action on a request for a variance to allow a 25-foot tall freestanding sign to have a 0-foot setback where 5 feet is required at 7408 West Sahara Avenue. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, these requests will allow for the removal of a previous condition of approval that required a master sign plan for the site, and then the construction of a freestanding sign that will extend approximately 3.5 feet into the public right-of-way. Staff supports the requested review of condition as the site does not meet the current size requirements of Title 19 that make a master sign plan necessary. However, staff does not support the requested variance as the proposed sign could be designed to meet the requirements of Title 19.
Thank you. Now I'd like to declare the public hearing open. Anyone in attendance wish to speak on the matter, please approach the microphone and give your name for the record.
Neil Beller on behalf of Benson Bertoldo Law Firm. Rich Henshaw on behalf of Yesco, and he will address the council if that's agreeable.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize for interrupting, but I need to abstain. My law firm represents Benson and Bertoldo. And, pardon? I think out of an abundance of caution, therefore I also need to abstain on 21.
Thank you. Okay, proceed, please.
On the first item on the review of conditions, to remove that, basically the property wouldn't require a master sign plan today. In 1993, it was requested that it would be have a master sign plan, and so there's never been a sign plan in effect. So staff recommends approval on that item. So are we tying these together?
Yes, we are.
Okay,
Go ahead and continue, and you can talk about the setback.
As far as the setback goes, currently right now, they had purchased a sign from Signs West, and about halfway through construction, Signs West went out of business, so the sign never got finished. It never got any inspections on it. And when I got involved in the project, I noticed a couple things. That number one, that the sign was located in the easement and it did not have the correct setback. So number one, this sign has to be removed as non-conforming, and that would be our first request, is to be able to remove that sign. Second request, we'd like to replace it. With this pylon sign. This sign meets code in height conformance, in square footage, and animation, so we're not asking for any variance with the sign itself as far as the construction of it. What we are asking for the variance for on the setback is due to the depth of the property. There's, from the back of the sidewalk to the building is 19.5 feet. There's an easement from the sidewalk to the right-of-way that's 8.5 feet. So if you add an additional 5 feet on the setback, that puts you at 13.5 feet back, which would give you room for about a 5-foot sign. That is why we're asking that we can have the the 0 set foot back and move into the encroachment so the sign can be visible. 5 foot's awfully small, and when I did talk with staff as far as a redesign, that's basically what the answer was. It would just have to be smaller. You would not get any visibility for eastbound Sahara traffic, and it would be very difficult westbound too to see it. It'd be tucked in behind all the trees. And there was, I sort of had this same situation on a project I did back in 2003 where there was a 0 foot setback approved for it. It was then considered a special conditions request. Bear with me here, I got to find it.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, while he's looking for that, what relevance does a 2003 have to do with now? Are you just trying to show that it's been done before?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I trust your judgment.
All right.
You're at Yesco Signs, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, you're good folks. If not, I'll call John Williams.
So that's what we're requesting on. The reason for the variance, due to the way the property's designed, there's nowhere you can't go to either side, right or left, because you'll be outside of the parcel. So we have a depth situation here.
Thank you. Anyone else in attendance wish to speak on this matter, please approach the microphone and state your name.
Thank you. Todd Farlow, 240 North 19th Street. I kind of like the monument staying out there right the way it stands. But number 2 things, I'm not comfortable at all with the animated sign. And number 2, I just do not believe that signs should be encroaching into the public right of way. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this matter, please approach the microphone. Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed.
If I might, I'm Joe Benson. I just want to bring up the fact that primarily in the city of Las Vegas, this would not be a necessary setback because it's what it is. It's just because of this. Is it the power company that has the easement?
We have a sewer and a power easement.
So we're really probably not going to interfere with any of that at all, but we would, if we have to, agree that if they ever want to use that easement, because that's what we're really asking for, is to allow us to come into that easement a little bit, because if we don't, there's no sense putting a really nice looking sign up and nobody can see it. And by the way, when we hired this other company, I think our secretary did most of it, but we didn't know that he was not within the required distance and so forth. So, and then next thing we know, he went broke. So maybe that's all good and well. But in any event, if we were anywhere else in the city of Las Vegas without this easement, it wouldn't be a 0 step back. So we just happen to have this easement that runs all the way up Sahara, and not that they're ever going to use it, but if they did, we would do what we have to accommodate them. And we could set that out as a condition.
Thank you. As I said before, the public hearing is closed, so thank you for your afterthoughts.
If I may,
You're attorney, right?
I am. I'm Joe Benson. So.
Okay, I was pleased that you let an architect or a sign man speak on your guys' behalf. That was brilliant thinking. The public hearing is closed, so now I turn the matter over to the planning commissioners for discussion and possible motion.
If I may first just ask staff a question, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Rankin, could you explain to me how number 21, abeyance ROC 422, the review of the condition, has to do with number 22 and why are they in conjunction with each other. I don't want to sound ill-informed, but I'm not going to sit here and act like I understand it. I don't.
Sure, not a problem.
Thank
Originally, when this property was entitled, there was a condition placed on it that required a master sign plan. And at that time, master sign plans were required on parcels of 2 acres or less. Since that time, code has changed. The requirement for a master sign plan is on large projects of 15 acres or more. We don't require the master sign plan on smaller projects. To have this project here come in with a master sign plan would probably be overly burdensome on the applicant to do an entire sign plan showing all the signs on the properties. All of the other signs conform to Title 19. And we don't require that. So that's why the review condition is to eliminate that requirement for the master sign plan. The variance itself would then be a separate item in order to allow a setback of less than 5 feet.
Thank you.
Okay, if we could go back to a previous picture that showed the building, the monument sign, and the setback. Okay, that'll work. That wasn't one. You're proposing to remove this monument sign.
That is correct.
Yes.
Okay, and to replace it with a 25-foot tall sign. Okay, are we going to be taking out these trees? Otherwise, it's going to be, like you say, you can't see it. What happens to the trees?
Well, I could address that. My name's John Bertoldo. I'm one of the owners of this building with Joe Benson. We're going to look at it as we do it. We're going to have to remove some of our trees there. The deciduous trees are going to be gone. Questionable whether we'll have to take out any of the palm trees, but the deciduous trees will have to be removed east and west of the sign.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
So those mature trees will go. Does that put us in a position where we need to go back and look at the landscape plan? Because I find that very detrimental to the appearance of the entire project.
If they're removing required landscaping as part of this sign plan, they'll need to come back either to the planning department or this planning commission in order to revise the approved landscape plan to remove that landscape material.
Or you, Mr. Chairman, if you say reduce the land, what if they took it and relocated it to other portions? Will they still meet the intent of the?
Yes, we would just need a revised landscape plan submitted to the planning department to relocate those trees in an appropriate location.
And if I might, we have submitted this already to our owners association, and they're fine with us trying to move it. If they die, then oh well, but they're fine with us modifying the landscaping.
And
can I say one thing on the landscaping part?
Yeah, go ahead.
The visibility, I mean, when we're looking at this picture like we're looking at right now, you know, you're standing behind the sidewalk looking. From the street view, there is more of an opening in the center of where the building is, where the actual visibility of the sign might be a lot greater than it looks in these pictures.
So then, are you saying we do not have to cut down those mature trees?
There could be a possibility that we don't,
Okay,
but we won't know that
Are we
until the
supposed to
sign's
vote on
put
a
up.
possibility, or are we supposed to have some facts we can deal with?
The latter, I would assume.
It'd be the latter. It'd be a
Okay,
possibility.
so from an attorney, I'll take a possibility as you bet you they're going down. That's legal talk, right? You've been hanging out with these guys too long.
Mr. Chairman?
Trinity, if Trinity wants to speak,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, he had his hand up.
Are you going to be removing the existing monument sign, putting the sign back in the same exact location?
That's what we'd like to do, yes.
Okay. What if you moved it to the other side of the entrance exit? Looking at one of the other pictures, and whenever I drove by this site, it looked like it might have a little bit better visibility. Am I incorrect?
There's a separation problem at that point between signs. So I'd be asking for a variance for a separation of 100 feet.
Okay.
If I moved it. You're talking about moving it more west.
And then my last question, this might be for staff. Do we have any requirements on the illumination of our signs? I was driving down Las Vegas Boulevard this past week, and I forget which wedding chapel stuck up constructed one of these 10-foot by 10-foot illuminated, animated signs, and almost needed to put my shades on at midnight going down the road. I was blinded, and actually had to look down from the road. So just wondering if there's any kind of requirements or parameters on the brightness of these signs.
The current Title 19 requirements have no limitations on the lumens for a sign. We don't have a standard as such that the requirement is that signs that are illuminated have to have a residential adjacency of 200 feet away from if they face residential property.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Trudeau?
we have a lot of talent here in this application, the sign, and 3 well-known attorneys here in town. The one thing, why didn't you just ask for the variance for the existing monument? I quite honestly, this, whether you like Sterling Park or not as a development, it was done as multi-buildings with multi-pads so they could sell all the buildings. And originally the master sign plan was not so much that, I think it was more the applicant saying, hey, we're controlling our signs on all these buildings. And then they put up that innocuous blue thing in the common drive. But you guys have the monument on the corner, and while the sign company went south, I think my support would be better given to you guys finishing the monument, which at the travel path along Sahara is probably got more visibility, and we aren't talking about cutting all the trees down so our signs can be seen. I really believe that if we do this, we'll be asked for another 24-foot sign across the drive, and I mean, this can start going to where this office park will wind up looking a little rough on West Sahara. So, and I know as a sign company, no one wants to repair anybody else's sign because liability and all that. But you got great attorneys here; they can take care of that liability issue. Sign companies historically, we can't touch that sign. We want to do something new. I deal with it every day. A sign's been there for 15, 20 years. It's perfect. I need the bulbs changed. Oh, we're going to have to redo something because the code changed. That just doesn't make sense to me. I'd rather create the jobs and having great maintenance people repairing some of these signs than some of the out-of-state manufacturing. But I'm not going to support your high-rise sign. I will support if you ask for the encroachment for the monument. I think that's a much better use of the signage at this project. And
can I make a statement on that? There's only, for separation or for the frontage, you're only allowed 4 signs between these two associations. Right now, you've got the 2 Sterling Park signs, the teal-colored ones. Then you've got, on the other side, you've got the DeLuca sign, which is about, or probably about the same size as the sign that we're proposing here. This sign is not finished. There's another top half to this sign that was supposed to be LED. So this sign was still going to be another, it's like 5 or 6 feet taller with an LED on it. So it's not complete, and I don't know, as far as, I'd have to let them speak as far as ownership goes and what they preferred in the sign design.
I think we closed the public comment, right?
Yeah, they're answering questions.
Oh, I'm sorry, because I was ready to talk about it, so whenever you're ready.
Is there any more questions that are coming forth from the planning commissioners that these gentlemen can answer? I'm now going to turn the thing over to a bunch of attorneys. The public, you have one more comment. Okay. Okay, start the meter. It's going to be 1 minute.
Okay, the sign that's there that the company went bankrupt and couldn't finish was going to have an LED on it, and it was going to. They promised us going to be a high quality LED, as we looked into it, we spent about $25,000 on this lost cause, and so basically what we're proposing now is a sign by Yesco. They produce, this other board was going to come from China. They produce right here the LED and the light structure. They guarantee it. They stand behind it. So obviously it's going to represent a further investment on our part. All of the other owners there are firmly behind this. We've been good association members there for going on 15, 16 years, and they're all behind it as well. So again, we're asking for a sign in virtually the same place, but one that will be functional and dependable and will warrant the investment.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, it's closed. Anybody else have a comment? I think we're ready for a motion.
Well, I'm just going to make a comment before I make my motion. When my husband was a planning commissioner here 9 years ago, I was really jealous when Yesco gave him a planning commissioner sign, Quinn, to take home because you're not going to be giving me one. I'm not going to support this item, and I really wanted that sign when I got fired from here. I'm not going to support it because I don't want to start a precedent on Sahara Avenue where when you guys come up here, I'm so nervous to tell you no, you have no idea. But when somebody else comes up here without the macho or whatever you have behind you or the clout, I'm not going to be able to tell them no 6 blocks down the street because I told you people yes. I have to be fair, whether it's Mr. Gallitz or these attorneys in front of me or the guy down the street with the bakery. So I'm not going to support this sign. I am not going to support the zero setback, and I'm not going to support ripping out these trees because these trees can never, ever, ever come back. And we need these trees. And I know you're going to think, oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about. I do know what I'm talking about here. I've lived here my whole life. So I'm going to start with number 21, abeyance ROC 4233, following staff's recommendation for approval on that item.
Motion's been made. Motion's been made for approval. Please cast your votes. Post. That motion carries.
Thank you. And then going nervously to number 22, variance 42234, I'm going to say no to that item and stick with my feelings and my guns tonight. Thank you.
So motion has been made to
deny.
To deny.
I'm following staff's recommendations for denial.
Please cast your votes.
That's how nervous I was to vote.
Very good. Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, these items go forward to the City Council on the October 19th City Council agenda.
Leave the trees, bring back a monument sign.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item number 23, special use permit 42258. The applicant is Kids Happy Days Childcare. The owner is Shanta Wijiku Lar Ante for possible action on a waiver for a special use permit for a proposed childcare group home 7 through 12 children with a waiver to allow access to the facility by means of a right-of-way, Oakey Boulevard, with the width of greater than 60 feet at 6201 West Oakey Boulevard. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is currently operating as a child care family home with a maximum of 6 children with a state of Nevada license. The applicant is proposing to increase the number of children at the current location up to 12 children, changing the classification of the land use to child care group home. The applicant is proposing to add 3 additional parking spaces at the rear of the property, including a van accessible handicap space with street access to Verde Jardin Way. A A waiver is requested to allow access to the facility from Okie Boulevard, as well a street greater than 60 feet in width, to allow loading and unloading of passengers on site from either the front driveway or the parking lot located at the rear of the property simultaneously to meet the requirement that all loading and unloading occur on site. However, the configuration is awkward for the number of children involved and will most likely result in this activity occurring in the public right-of-way. The staff is recommending denial as the use is not compatible with the surrounding residential uses, as is evidenced by the requested waiver.
Now I'd like to declare the public hearing open, and anyone in attendance wishing to speak on the matter, please approach the microphone, give your name for the record, and tell us your story.
I'm Renuka Gudradna, residing at 1915 Simon Street, apartment 1016. I'm the interpreter representing Mrs. Shanta Vijay Gudradna.
Thank you. Thank you. And if I remember this item correctly, when you were here before, the Planning Commission asked you to clean up the outside area and take some new photographs. Show us that.
Yes, sir. We have.
Please. Thank you. The public hearing is now open. Anyone in attendance who wishes to speak on this matter, please approach the microphone and give your name for the record.
Thank you, Todd Farlow, 240 North 19th Street. That landscaping has something to be desired. Am I correct? I just got a little bit of that. Are they going to be unloading kids and loading kids on the street or on the property?
Thank you.
The thing is, if they're going to unload the kids on the street, I'm totally against that. I mean, there has to be some protection.
We understand. Anyone else in attendance wishing to speak on this matter? Seeing none, we'll declare the public hearing closed and ask you the question on behalf of Mr. Farland. Are you going to be unloading the children where?
They have opened up a entrance from the Verde Hardy on the other side of the house, which is on the right-hand side, and we are going to have three car parking, including the handicap, and there will be two on the driveway, which is facing Okie Boulevard.
Thank you. Okay. Public hearing is now closed. Turn it over to the planning commissioners for discussion and possible motion.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. I don't quite honestly see how this functions. I mean, if you're dropping kids off on the side street because Okie is pretty brisk, it seems like everybody that's going to be dropping off kids on a regular basis are going to be encouraged to go through Vista Verde North, which means we're bringing that somewhat commercial property or commercial use right into the neighborhood as a solution. I can't support this item.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I concur not only with Commissioner Truesdale, but Mr. Farlow said it more eloquently than I did. The landscape is less to be desired. And I still have an applicant that doesn't understand what I'm saying, so I still have a concern as well. So I will not be supporting this.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments?
Hi. So right now you're licensed for 7 to, how many children? 6, and you want to go to 7 to 12. I think you should be thankful you are licensed for 6. 7 to 12 is just too many. First of all, your space is not growing, right? I mean, you might have improved a little bit, but you haven't enlarged the space for the children. and it's a very busy street to be dropped off on. And I think you're doing a great thing for the 6 kids you have right now, but in this location, at this time, with this amount of space, you will not see my support as a representative of this neighborhood. I'm sorry.
Anybody else have a comment? Then I think we're ready for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a move for denial, subject to staff's recommendation.
Motion's been made. Please cast your votes. Post. Sorry.
Mr. Chairman, this item will go forward to the City Council on October the 19th.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. We now move to item number 24, which is a special use permit 42648. The applicant is Ace Loan Company. The owner is BF Trust for possible action regarding a request for a special use permit for a proposed pawn shop within an existing 1,606 square foot commercial building with waivers to allow a 50-foot distance separation from a residential use where 200 feet is required, and to allow a 20-foot distance separation from a similar use where 1,000 feet is required at 519 East St. Louis Avenue. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, before you go forward, I'm going to stand on this item because the principals of the BF Trust are tenants of mine in a shopping center in the area. And unrelated to this item, but I want to tell you that this individual tenant has always run his business and always been actually one of the best tenants I've ever seen, and has nothing to do with this application. I just want to say that on the record.
Thank you. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, the proposed use does not conform to the minimum requirements of Title 19, and as such cannot be conducted in a manner that is harmonious and compatible with the existing surrounding land uses due to distance separation waivers that have been requested, and staff recommends denial. Please note we have received additional support since publication.
Thank you. Now I'd like to declare the public hearing open. Anyone in attendance wishing to speak on the matter, please approach the microphone and give your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Todd Kessler on behalf of the applicant, 206 North 3rd Street. I'll try and be brief. I think it is a good point to tell you about this business. This business has been in operation for over 60 years. It's one of the unique people in this valley that can say that. This is a family that is deeply rooted in Ward 3 in the city of Las Vegas. They're somewhat pillars of that community. Their son runs a temple at Maryland and Oki. Their daughter-in-law runs a pharmacy near the Hunt Ridge. They've redeveloped houses in that area as well. And at all times, they've been good neighbors. Actually, one of the principals, Carol, taught at Valley High, which is where some of us have probably went to in our endeavors here in school. As it relates to the distance requirements from a financial institution's perspective, you know, this is one that I've always had a quandary with here in any of my representations before commission. It seems to me, you know, I'll quote the mayor when this item went before council or the bill was enacted, you know, competition is good for business. I mean, these businesses have actually coexisted before. There's a super pond adjacent to this business that used to be located on First Street where the Golden Nugget expanded. This same applicant ran a business adjacent, the building next door to them, and these two businesses have somewhat of a history there where they coexisted and did very well. I can cite dozens of examples where this waiver has been granted in the past. I can cite it for Super Pond when it moved into its location adjacent to this property. I can cite it for this applicant when it moved into Mr. Trudeau's property that he was talking about where they're a tenant. The other waiver requirement is the residential. And again, there's a Super Pond adjacent to this building that sits within that 200-foot zone as well. These folks who have been good neighbors at this property, they've owned this property for a long time. They're trying to make it better. It just recently actually got hit by a car. And so some pictures that when planning went out there where it might have been taken that showed it in its state of disrepair, but those have been fully repaired, permitted as well. In general, I think that this ordinance has had a storied history And this is one example, I think, where we need to go back to some of the capitalistic approaches that existed and say that competition is good for business. If there wasn't one adjacent to it, I'd be more concerned about the residential waiver. But as far as the distance requirement between the other financial institution, I believe that it should be granted, and therefore we request that you approve subject to staff's conditions. I'm happy to answer any questions after.
Thank you.
further
Anyone
comment.
else in attendance wishing to speak on this matter? Please give your name for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. My name is Kate Lowenhar Fisher. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Brownstein Hyatt Farber Schreck, and I am actually here on behalf of St. Louis Square, which, as I'm sure you're all familiar, is a large commercial center on Las Vegas Boulevard, starting at about 1901 Las Vegas Boulevard and continuing around. Basically, we're here to register our strenuous objection to the special use permit. I'd like to echo staff's reasons for recommending denial, and also add that we have a number of personal concerns. One, there's already a great deal of pressure in terms of traffic and parking in this area, and this would aggravate that pressure. Two, St. Louis Square is, home to the Culinary Health Plan. It's the headquarters of Culinary. There's a pharmacy there. There's a planned medical clinic to service the health needs of culinary workers. And there's already, like I said, a lot of pressure there. And we think that this proposed use is fundamentally incompatible, unharmonious with the existing uses there. And we just want to be on record that we're strenuously against the special use permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Kessler, there's two microphones there. Can you back
Yes,
off
thank
one?
you,
and
Tuck
then-
Carla, 240
Sure, I
North
didn't know
North
that there was that
19th
many
Street.
Yeah,
people
let
in
them
line,
come
so
up.
absolutely.
Two at a mic. Thank you.
Appreciate your help. Thanks.
I've got a real problem with the landscaping, and it seems to me that anyone that would be asking for a special use permit would go to a little extra effort and plant a tree or put something besides rock. They put this rock out and they call it desert landscaping. Like, I go along with what former Commissioner Evans says. That is not desert landscaping. That is just crap. Thank you.
That's the way Commissioner Evans talked. Next.
Good evening. My name is Scott Swank. I live at 546 Barbara Way, just 3 blocks up the street. I'm here to register my opposition to this. As stated, there's already a pawn shop immediately next door to this proposed location. It's directly west of residential. It's directly north of residential. And I think doubling the density compounds the existing inharmonious existence of a pawn shop. It's not the perfect location for one. I looked at the broader area from St. Louis to Charleston, from the residential over to the railroad. It's kind of slanted. They want to be right here on the edge, right by the residential, right next door to an existing pawn shop. In that whole area, they have a pawn shop just at the south corner. There are 2 others at this south corner. The entire rest of that reasonably large area is free of any issues as far as putting in a pawn shop. 1,000 feet from another pawn shop, 200 feet is it from residential? The rest of the area is completely open. So this particular place, across the street north and west from residential, and directly adjacent to one of the only pawn shops in the area, seems almost designed to pick the worst spot. And I encourage you to oppose it on those grounds. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sir?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is John Delakanakis. I live at 548 Barbara Way, and I oppose their application to get rid of the requirements that are already in place to protect the surrounding property owners. I mean, the issue before the Commission is actually quite narrow. I have no doubt they're good people. I have no doubt they are good business people. But the very narrow issue before this body is there a compelling reason to grant the variance? I mean, there's a reason why the Commission sits here, and that is to protect the existing laws. So when people move to a neighborhood, they know what they're getting into. Now, I understand that a Commission has the power to grant variances, but there's usually some compelling reason, some good reason that it's to be granted, and I just don't see it in this application. I'm not going to reiterate what my neighbor Scott said, but this neighborhood has some unique challenges already. I mean, with the change in the apartment complex, which is now a budget suites operation called Siegel Suites, we have 2 of them right there. I really question whether, as a matter of urban planning, that it's wise to put yet another pawn shop at the edge of this neighborhood right next to another pawn shop. And I submit to you it's not. So for that reason, I respectfully request that you deny their application. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening. My name is Mike Monahan. I live at 544 Bondita Avenue, and I'm also the president of the Historic Beverly Green Neighborhood Association. And for all the reasons you've heard my compatriots mention, we also request that this variance not be approved. I believe correspondence has been sent from some of the neighbors to the commission itself, and stressing our views. And on a personal note, we all want downtown to succeed, and we all want more businesses to come downtown, obviously. And there are numerous opportunities for that specific area to be used for, because there's need for the neighborhood as well. And certainly anything else would be well put, but not a pawn shop, another pawn shop, once again, for all the reasons just mentioned. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Next.
My name is Heidi Swank. I live at 546 Barbara Way, and I am the current secretary of the Beverly Green Neighborhood Association. And I would like to ask that you deny this request for a special permit. One of the aims of the code is to avoid an overconcentration of certain types of businesses, one of which is pawn shops in the same vicinity. And since there is one right next door, I think we probably have enough pawn shops in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. And, sir.
Hi, Steve Franklin, 556 Ellen Way. Also here to speak against this. I really hope that this application is denied. These laws are in place for a reason, and I hope that you guys have enough vision to go ahead and uphold those reasons. I don't want to bore you. I don't want to keep you here too late. I know there was mention that this place is the owner currently or has a place or had a place across from Lady Luck, and then there was another place across the street from Golden Nugget. Both of those places are improving their properties. Our neighborhood is improving our properties. Apparently, they didn't want those places there because they're not going to be there anymore, or they're not there now, and I don't want them in my neighborhood either. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And finally.
Good evening, Jennifer Lazovich, 8345 West Sunset Road. I am representing Super Pawn tonight. It has been referenced as the other pawn shop that is actually located within 20 feet of this proposed pawn shop tonight. On the overhead, this is where the application is, immediately across this alley, but from property line to property line, it's 20 feet, is our existing location right there. I stand before you tonight. I would be a hypocrite and disingenuous if I didn't acknowledge that to relocate existing pawn licenses can be a very difficult process. It often comes with a need for waivers. I am not here opposing the request for waivers in some respect, but the waiver that is being asked for tonight is actually to be 980 feet closer to an existing pawn shop. I am unaware of any Super Pawn location that has ever asked for a waiver to be 20 feet away from an existing pawn shop. We have asked for waivers in the past to be perhaps a little closer to existing check cashing facilities, because that's the way the code is defined. You have to waive to pawn shops and then also to other financial institutions specified, which includes check cashing, payday loan type of operations. So it's not simply that a waiver is being requested. I know how difficult it is to relocate, and waivers are oftentimes appropriate for pawn shop uses to go in certain areas. I'm merely suggesting that a waiver of 980 feet in this particular instance is not appropriate, and we would ask the Planning Commission to deny this application as it did a few months ago when the same application for the same location was before you for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, anyone else wishing to speak on this matter? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed and give the applicant representative the opportunity to respond to some of the comments that were made.
Thank you. Just briefly, This is, while I understand Mr. Todd's comment about its landscape, if I can, this is the applicant, Howard Bach, if I can give him the opportunity to speak, because I think he heard some things that he might want to address. So,
my name is Howard Bach. I'm the owner of John's Lawn and Jewelry and also Ace Lawn and Jewelry. And I'm the present applicant, and I'd like to make a correction to some statement made by the young lady here who represents Superporn. In the year 2003, Superporn was given a variance to move next to my pawn shop. They were at 124 South 1st Street. I was located at 126 South 1st Street. And we had a separation of no more than 2 feet. And I willingly went along with that because I feel that competition is good, and it worked out very well for both of our corporations. So that when the young lady says there was no variances, she's not telling the truth. And secondly, in the year 2005, when Superporn, and correctly stated, Cash America, that is the real title of this corporation, they also asked for a variance to move next to me at 124 to 126 1st Street. Again, they were allowed the variance with my wholehearted support. So I just wanted to make that correction before you fine folks. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to respond to any of the other comments?
I'll just address.
And incidentally, I'd like to just make a comment what I feel this whole rejection of my application is, and that is to eliminate competition between Superporn, who charges 12% annual monthly rate of interest, and myself, who charges half that amount. And at the end of this month, the Superporn will be charging 13% interest per month, while I will still be charging 6%. I serve a different clientele than the people who essentially work in the casino industry. And I've been, especially the people in the Sahara Hotel who have been laid off in the last 3-4 months. And so that I am performing a community service. And that's about it. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners, Chairman Torbridge. Simply, I'll address the landscape requirements. This building has been in existence for a long time. If there was something that you guys wanted to condition on us, we'd be happy to think about it. I didn't see that in any staff's conditions. This is their property, and that's why they're trying to bring it here. They've owned this building for a long time. Used to be the pharmacy for the culinary. They rented out, the culinary rented it out from them before at some point. This meets parking conditions, so I'm not too concerned about some of the parking statements that went there. I appreciate Superporn's representative indicated that waivers are difficult. Waivers typically go with SUP applications for pawn, and that they've requested some in the past, so I appreciate that acknowledgement. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. The public hearing is closed, so now I'd like to turn the matter over to the planning commissioners for discussion and possible motion. Who wants to go first?
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Sure. Please recognize Trinity.
I met with Howard, and we went through this application, and he explained a lot of things about the pawn shop and about his business practices, and with all intents and purposes, I think he probably runs a better pawn shop than others. However, it comes down to the fact of the distance separation, and typically when we see these, they're 500, 600, 700, 800 feet apart, and I haven't been here near as long as the other commissioners, but we're looking at 20-foot distance separation. And I don't think it necessarily deals strictly with the competition, because if this was in a different neighborhood that where the neighbors weren't opposing it, if it was, let's say, on Industrial or Commerce in Colorado where there weren't as many residents, I don't feel we'd see as much opposition, and the competition could be good. Maybe in certain areas there could be a pawn shop alley or a massage alley like on Spring Mountain. But I'm not sure if this is right for this particular area and if it fosters redevelopment, because if we have a pawn shop next door, a payday loan, and then there's 6 or 7 massage parlors, it's not going to encourage Fresh and Easy or some of these other projects to come into that area, and I think that's what the neighbors are looking for. And these particular neighbors right here are very active. They're ones who stood up for Circle Park to reopen it. It's the Beverly Green and the John S. Park neighborhood leaders, so it's people that are very involved. And also I received about 20 different emails from different individuals, and unfortunately my company's server went down and lost about 10 of them. I was able to print out and read through the rest of these, and there's about 8 other pawn shops within a mile and a half from this particular location, so I'm not sure if I could support it, but I would like to hear from the other commissioners and your opinions.
Thank you. I'll take a few swings here. Ms. Fisher brought up the issue of traffic and parking in the immediate area. That particular building has been a commercial building from day one, if I'm not mistaken. And so the occupancy of that commercial building would, in a worst case scenario, simply get it back to what it would have been had it been operating as a pharmacy for the Culinary Union. So I really can't give a lot of weight to saying, well, gosh, having a commercial operation there is detrimental to the neighborhood. I buy some of the arguments, but that one I'm not buying. I think we've got a bigger issue on our hands here than simply the matter of the existence of a pawn shop in its proximity to another pawn shop. I would be remiss if I didn't take advantage of reminding the applicant that no good deed goes unpunished. So just because you let somebody move next to you doesn't mean that they owe you a return favor. Sorry, but that's the way it works in the big leagues, and you're certainly in a big league here. But regarding the big picture and how lots of other factors come into play, one of the other factors that no one has spoken about is the current license that's trying to be moved to this location is held up to some extent the development of the Lady Luck Casino. That's a project that we've been waiting for years to get going downtown. There's several obstacles in the way. One of them is the existence of this pawn shop license that exists there. And to help that pawn shop relocate just may be the last little obstacle we have to getting the Lady Luck back up and operating. That, to me, is a tremendous advantage that can't go neglected. We've got overall issue of the downtown development. We're trying to make the place look better. What we're dealing with now at this particular location at 519 East St. Louis is a building that's been vacant. And I think that an improvement to the area would simply be an occupied building. An occupied building versus an empty building. You know, I'll go along with an occupied building every time. We've got the fact of the matter is I don't really think the addition of a pawn shop, a second pawn shop in that immediate area, is going to have any measurable negative impact on the immediate neighborhood. You've got residential that's a few hundred yards away. Absolutely preserve it. I think that the people that are involved in the Beverly Green and the John S. Parks comments and observations and passion for their neighborhood is the kind of activities that we need. But they've also got to realize that St. Louis is a commercial street, just like Las Vegas Boulevard is, and it is going to be commercial. Someone shaking their head that Las Vegas Boulevard is not a commercial street. Pardon me?
The vast majority of St. Louis Avenue is residential.
Within how many yards of Las Vegas Boulevard? Quite a few before it goes residential. To that, all right. I think you understand what I mean. That particular block, when you get south of Weldon, no, you have to go clear down to Santa Paula before you start getting into R4 district. Okay, thank you. We now have the issue of one of the largest pawn shops in the United States opposing the relocation of a mom and pop store, a local mom and pop store. I find something objectionable about that. So having said that, when you look at the total picture, it totally changes the way you look at things. And we all can't have exactly what we want in everything. But I don't think that this particular request is completely out of line. Would you rather have a flower shop there? Sure. No one's offered to build a flower shop there, you know. So I think that we've got a proposal before us that has a lot of merit and a lot of spin-off benefit too. So anybody else?
I just wanted to make a quick comment for the record to Mr. Bach and your representative. It's very rare that Ms. Lazovich doesn't call you when she has an item in front of you that she's compelled to explain to you, and I didn't hear from her today. And I think the reason I didn't hear from her today about this item is because I remember when she brought to us the Super Pawn on Decatur where Sizzler was, and we all cringed and thought, my gosh, she's completely out of her mind, and we let her build it, and it turned out to be great. But if somebody came next door and wanted to do the Arby's or to do the Wendy's, it would be out of the question, because then it becomes a cluster of pawn shops. It becomes a row of pawn shops. And this is not in a residential neighborhood. This is in my ward. This is on a very busy street. So for me, it is not about the fact that it shouldn't be allowed to be somewhere. I just don't want to see that area be called Pawn Shop Alley, or like my friend Commissioner Trinity said, Massage Alley, because that's what that street is becoming. And if we don't put a stop to it now and try to get something else in there, I want to see it vacant for a few more months. I'm sorry. And I don't want to see anything vacant. My husband's a builder. I wish he was building it out. But the bottom line is I will not support this item tonight.
Mr. Chairman,
Please.
I think the overriding concern to me is the precedence that will be set by this. With all due respect, I agree with Commissioner Trowbridge. You don't like to see an unoccupied building. But on the other hand, we're not talking about a couple feet of variance, like in the vast majority of cases we see here. We're talking 20 feet when 1,000 feet is supposed to be there. And with that said, I don't think it's a good idea. I think it's poor planning to allow this to happen. And talking about a pawn shop alley, I spent 10 years in the military. My first assignment was going to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and Lawton. And Fort Sill Boulevard led in right into the gate there, and all there was on each side of the street were pawn shops, and more pawn shops, interspaced with bars designed to take young troopies' monies. And when you get in that type of situation, it really creates an ugly scene. So I can't support this tonight.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, then I think we're ready for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, due to the applicant,
I'd just like to address, I'm sorry, I am sorry.
due to the applicant not meeting the
I'm sorry.
Let's start over. Mr. Chairman, due to the applicant not meeting the distance separation requirements per Title 19, I move to follow staff's recommendations for denial.
Okay. Motion's been made. Please cast your vote. And post. Motion denied carries.
This item goes forward to City Council on October the 19th.
Thank you.
We now move to item number 25, which is a special use permit 42657. The applicant is Fast Cash Title Loan. The owner is Andrea J. and Susan Russo. That's for a possible action on a request for a special use permit for proposed 2,108 square foot auto title loan use with waivers to allow no distance separation from a residential use where 200 feet is required and 680 foot distance separation from a financial institution specified where 1,000 feet is required at 6433 West Charleston Boulevard. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, the space currently is vacant, but the last building that was located in this was a financial institution specified. The subject location is appropriate for the intensity of the proposed use to add auto title loan to the previous use, and as such can be conducted in a manner that is harmonious and compatible with the existing surrounding land uses. Therefore, staff recommends approval of this special use permit. Please note we have received additional letters of support and protest since publication.
Thank you. Now I'd like to declare the public hearing open. Anyone in attendance wishing to speak, please approach the microphone and give your name for the record.
Ross Goodman on behalf of MHD Nevada Holdings, the applicant. And without belaboring what staff said, we ask that you follow staff recommendation. I'm happy to answer any questions regarding the two waivers.
Thank you. Anyone else in attendance wishing to speak? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed and turn it over to the planning commissioners for discussion and possible motion.
If nobody has anything to say, I'm ready to make a motion. Mr. Goodman, I visited the property today. I just drove through it, and it's basically just ready to go. So with that, following all staff's recommendations, I offer the motion for approval.
Mr. Chairman, before you vote, I'm going to make a disclosure. It has nothing, doesn't affect my vote in any way, but the obvious is that my wife works for the mayor of the city of Las Vegas, who happens to also be Mr. Goodman's mother. I've never heard of this item from any of them, and I'm going to vote on this item, but I felt I should make that disclosure.
Thank you.
Disclosure's been made. Motion's been made. Please cast your votes. Post. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, this item goes forward to City Council on October the 19th.
We now move to item number 26 and companion item number 27. 26 is a special use permit, 42675. The applicant is Golden Gate Casino, LLC. The owner is Sal Sigvey Hotel Company, Inc., for possible action on a request for a special use permit for proposed 4,671 square foot expansion of an existing 11,548 square foot gaming establishment, non-restricted use at number 1 Fremont Street. Item number 27 is a site development review 42674 for possible action on a request for a site development plan review for a 28,902 square foot addition to an existing hotel and gaming establishment, non-restricted, and parking lot improvements with waivers of the downtown Centennial Plan streetscape standards and a corresponding request for encroachment into the Main Street public right-of-way. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, the site consists of an existing hotel and casino and a valet parking lot north of Carson Avenue and a surface parking lot to the south. The addition is located at the rear of the existing structure, adjacent to the valet lot, and includes 4,267 square feet of casino floor area, 19 hotel suites, as well as an additional lobby, restaurant, and service areas. The proposed addition and parking lots are in substantial compliance with the requirements of the Downtown Centennial Plan and Title 19, with the exception of the requested waivers, which are minor in nature, and staff supports them. And staff recommends approval of both applications.
Thank you. I'd like to declare the public hearing open and ask anyone in attendance wishing to speak on the matter to approach the microphone and give your name for the record. Colonel Burdell.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Greg Borgel, 300 South 4th Street, here for the Golden Gate Hotel. Also in the audience, if you have questions appropriate for their consideration, is the project manager and the partners of the hotel. We certainly appreciate the staff's favorable recommendation, and I guess I want to reiterate favorable recommendation because in several places it says denial, and staff always meant approval, or at least has always meant it recently. And we appreciate that. We've reviewed all of the staff conditions. They're fine. We would ask for consideration on one tiny item in condition number 16 on SDR. The standard language is used that lighting on the exterior shall be shielded and shall be downward directed. That's really aimed more at a different situation, parking lots and so forth, as we understand it. We're happy to shield our lights, but we intend to light the building with upward-facing lights. And that really more serves the purpose that's intended, because if you take a tall building and you light the surface from on high, you will see the light bulbs despite the shielding. With shielding aimed up from the bottom, it is truly shielded. And so we would appreciate it if you could consider deleting the phrase "and shall be downward directed." We will shield the lights, but they will be aimed upward. In our discussions with staff, they don't find that objectionable, but this is standard language that they have used in the past. So with that one change, we would hope you would approve it. Now, with regard to the substance of the project, this is something like a $12 million improvement of the Golden Gate. Interior, as described in your agenda. The exterior change is in the rear, which is to say the south of the property, north being to the left here on this map. Here's Fremont Street Experience. So exteriorly, the most important change is on the south. There are changes to the balance, basically simplifying much of the fascia, restoring some older presentation issues there, and making minor changes which your staff has supported. But in the rear, there is an extension and the construction of a porte cochere so that in the future people who use our valet, and it is largely a valet facility, as you know, will have shade. The valets will have shade, and so will you when you pull your car in to leave it with the valet or pick it up. The parking lots are being reconditioned, enhanced, re-landscaped, etc. So an improvement in every respect. Appreciate the staff's comments, and I guess we'd hope that you follow those thoughts.
Thank you. The public hearing is open. Anyone in attendance wishing to speak on this matter, please approach the microphone and give your name for the record.
Thank you. Todd Farlow, 240 North 19th Street. I'm really enthused and excited to see all of this money coming back in. They cleaned up the El Cortez, the Plaza Hotel, the Golden Nuggets put a tent, and now these folks are doing this. Boy, and I got to say thank you to these people very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak, come on down.
Hi, John Delakanakis, 548 Barber Way. I didn't actually know this was on item today, but I've been going to the Golden Gate since I moved here in 1996, and I've watched it over the years. And again, I really think what they're doing is fantastic, so you should do what they want to do.
Thank you. Anyone else in attendance wishing to speak? Seeing none, we'll declare the public hearing closed and turn the matter over to the planning commissioners for discussion and possible motion.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Brandenburg and his partners and his family have done an incredible job over the years, like the El Cortez. They have continued to reinvest in their property. It's one of the best kept secrets for some of our tourists, but the Golden Gate is an amazing. I'm glad they're improving the valet because it's where I park 90% of the time when I'm downtown. Because it is a great place, and if there aren't any objections, I will make a motion for approval with the amended condition.
Just have a quick comment. I just have a comment before.
Before we vote.
You know, I feel I'm in support of this too. It started with the Golden Nugget and then the Plaza and now the Golden Gate, and I think it's one of the most charming little hotels on that end of Fremont Street. The question I had was, originally I thought whenever I read this it was a waiver on the Centennial Plan for the street trees, but it looks like you actually have street trees on your plan. Is that correct?
It kind of depends on how you define street trees. We are providing
Okay.
landscaping, as you see on the plan. Those don't happen to meet the Centennial Plan standard for locations of trees because there just simply isn't enough room to do it. So we are doing trees, as you see, and enhancing it throughout, but they don't happen to meet the standards of the Centennial Plan today.
That means you're not putting them at the back of curb in the amenity zone.
That's correct, partly because there is no physical place to do that. Secondly, Main Street, which is the side here that you're looking at, is subject to a city plan for future development in any event. So you might still end up with a plan that conforms that way, but what we've done is enhance the landscaping where we could and how we could.
Perfect. Thank you.
And if I may, just before you make your motion, I wanted to say with great joy that I've known Mr. Brandenburg's father for over 30 years as Brandy, and it does not sway my vote in any way to go along with my colleagues with the motion for approval. So thank you.
Motion has been made. Any other comments?
Just, Mr. Morgell, I was just looking at the plan. You're not touching any of the original building or destroying it, are you?
We're not destroying any part of the building. We are
Great.
touching it in some minor ways which we think are respectful of the history of the building, in fact, enhance the historic content. For example, at some point in the past, flower boxes with plastic flowers had been hung on the front of the building. Those are going away to restore the old, more iconic look from when it was actually built. So we are touching it, but we aren't taking anything down.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. A motion has been made to, on this item, to approve it
That's with the amended condition.
with the amended condition of number 16 with the deletion of "and shall be downward directed." Motion's been made, so please cast your votes. Please post. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. If that was on both items, I'll leave.
No, we'll go with
Only
number
one,
27
okay.
again. Don't
With
count
regards-
your chickens.
With regards to item 27, move for approval subject to staff's conditions.
Motion's been
And
made.
condition number 6 as amended by the applicant. This is number 16 to delete "and shall be downward directed."
Absolutely.
Motion's been made. Please cast your votes.
Make sure that light's downward directed on Truesdale's Mercedes when he's parking there.
Please post.
Thank you
Motion
again.
carries.
And we're pleased and honored to have Commissioner Truesdale parking there.
Mr. Chairman, these items go forward to City Council on October the 19th.
Thank you again.
We now move to item number 28, which is a special use permit 42678. The applicant is Planet Hyundai. The owner is TCP Real Property LP for possible action on a request for a special use permit for outdoor storage accessory at 7150 West Sahara Avenue. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, this request would allow two existing self-contained storage containers to remain on the subject site in their current configuration. The accessory outdoor storage use is conditional in the C2 zoning district, but a special use permit is required as not all conditional use regulations have been met, including the location of the containers within the side yard setback and landscape buffer area, and the lack of adequate screening by an 8-foot tall wall. Staff is recommending denial of the request as the conditional use regulations could be met simply by relocating the containers to the interior of the lot, out of the setback and landscape buffer area, and away from the property line, and by providing adequate screening from adjacent properties and rights of way. Please know that there is an additional letter of protest since publication.
Thank you. Now I'd like to declare the public hearing open. Anyone in attendance wish to speak on the matter, please approach the microphone and give your name for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. Jennifer Roberts of Lionel Sawyer and Collins, 300 South 4th Street, appearing on behalf of the applicant, Planet Hyundai. This is an application for a special use permit to allow some outside storage bins that contain auto parts for their service station. And as the pictures demonstrated, they are placed next to a trash dumpster area that's enclosed, which is of equal neutral color, and it actually does kind of provide a barrier to the visibility of the storage bins. These bins were put in place about 3 years ago by the previous owner of the dealership, and as staff did adequately describe, they are within the landscape buffer. They are next to a wall that's about 8 feet high. Across on the other side of the wall is an empty former Harley-Davidson dealership. And in fact, there's about a 20-foot drop-off, so it's not of equal visibility or equal plane of sight. There's about a 20-foot drop-off. Again, it's a no longer existing dealership, so it is an empty lot. If the bins were to be relocated, as staff has suggested, and this is another picture that shows the bins, they're actually, again, kind of buffered by that trash disposal area. But if they were to be located within the parking lot, as staff suggested, they would actually be more visible to the residential area behind it, the dealership. So it would actually cause probably more of a headache or more of complaint by the residents that are living behind the Planet Hyundai versus the abandoned commercial property that's right next door. That it's pretty shielded, as you can see from the pictures, with trees. And again, it's about a 20-foot drop-off from the neighboring commercial property. It doesn't affect any parking that's allowed, and so we are asking that you recommend approval of this application.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in attendance wishing to speak on the matter? Mr. Farlow?
Yes, thank you. Todd Farlow, 240 North 19th Street. Was any landscaping torn out to put these containers there? The other thing is, it's awful close to that tree there, and I don't want anything to happen to the tree. I wouldn't mind if this was some sort of a temporary thing until they decide what they're going to do to this dealership and get this thing fixed up. But as any kind of a permanent deal, you know, they're taking out the landscaping deal forever and ever, and that's just not right. But I want them to get away from that tree.
Thank you. Anyone else in attendance wishing to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed and turn the matter over to the Planning Commissioners for discussion and possible motion.
If I may, I met with Ms. Roberts and the owner, Mr. Laurel of, not Laurel and Hardy, but Mr. Laurel, was that his name? And I went out there completely thinking that, of course, it wasn't going to be approved. It was going to be terrible. But here's the thing with this. It's very deceiving. What's really ugly about it is the fact that the trash compactors are open, and you can see all the garbage that's inside of them. But when you look at the two existing containers, when you open them up, what's in there are nothing but parts. They're in boxes, and they're ready to be pulled out by the men that are working on the cars, 300, 200 feet away. If these were to be moved to the west end of the parking lot, they would be in someone's backyard. And if they were to be moved into the middle of the parking lot, they would be in the way of the cars. There is really no other way to place these except to where they are put. And I agree with Mr. Farlow. The problem with the tree that you're talking about, it's on the other side of the property, so they would have to get permission, Mr. Farlow, to trim it because it's not on their side of the property. I literally was right under it, and I see exactly what you're talking about. This place is spotless. There's not a car on the sidewalk. There's nothing. It just kind of looks bad, I think, because of the garbage, not because of the containers. And I'm going to go against staff's recommendation tonight and ask for approval for this condition because I saw it myself with you. So there you have it.
Okay.
Just a quick question. It's you got parts in there, right?
Yes.
And these parts are walked over to the parts building to work on the cars?
Correct.
Why can't you put the parts in the parts building?
I think that they don't have enough room for all the parts that are actually ordered and in stock.
Wow.
They actually do store some parts in the parts building. These are additional parts that.
Parts is parts, right?
Okay. Any other comments? Motion's been made. Please cast your votes.
Thank you. Staff's recommendation of, I'm going to go with approval.
I'll let you approve it already.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let's go. Vote.
Commissioner Quinn, is this for permanent or is this for temporary approval?
Well, I was thinking about maybe putting like maybe how about like a 2-year condition on it to see if it's still looking that bad, or is that not long enough for you, Byron, or too long for you?
No.
What do you think?
12 months is
How about a year?
appropriate.
Okay, why don't we come back in a year so my planning commissioners are happy?
Okay.
Come
So we'll
back
do
or
a 1 year
administrative review.
one year administrative review to make sure that it.
Don't have to come
Okay.
back.
Yeah. What?
If it's a 1-year administrative review, they don't have to come back. They go to staff and see if there's been complaints.
Oh, okay,
If
we'll do
not,
that.
it rolls.
Okay, 1 year
Okay.
administrative review on this with approval.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, motion has been made. Please cast your votes. Post.
Thank you.
Motion carries. We now move to item number 29, which is a special use permit. Iris J. Gorlick, owner of Merck Car Corp., for possible action on request for a special use permit for proposed 140-square-foot bail bond service use at 1401 East Charleston Boulevard, Suite 102. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, the proposed bail bond service is to be located within an existing commercial building. Staff is recommending denial as the use is not compatible or harmonious with the surrounding land uses and would be better located in proximity to courthouse and correctional facilities, including the Regional Justice Center, Federal Courthouse, and Detention Facility. Please note that there are additional letters of protest since publication.
Thank you. Now I'd like to declare the public hearing open. Anyone in attendance wishing to speak on the matter, please approach the microphone and give your name for the record.
Good evening, Jess Marchese, 1212 South Casino Center Boulevard, on behalf of the Gorlicks. We would ask that this be approved subject to the conditions here. I noticed that the main issue that the recommendation was that it is not harmonious with the businesses in the adjacent area. However, when looking at it, I see that directly to the south is another bail bonds company. In addition, within that exact location is an insurance company, which is basically what a bail bonds company is. It's an insurance company. When someone is issued a bail bonds, that's what my client would be doing, is they're ensuring that the individual will show up to court. So based upon that, we would argue that it is harmonious to the use of that area. In addition, with mass media and faxes, et cetera, it is not necessarily it's not a necessity that this business be located directly next to the courthouse. Further, Charleston and 14th Street is not far from the federal courthouse. It's not far from the City of Las Vegas Detention Center or the Clark County Detention Center, for that matter. Further, this particular sort of business is, because of the nature of Clark County, there's plenty of correctional facilities in the area in which my client would be servicing, so he does not need to be directly next to these facilities. The Gorlicks own 2 other bail bonding companies. They're both very successful, never had any other issues with the Department or Division of Insurance. In addition, that location that they are proposing to go into is currently vacant. It's not a huge business, but they will anticipate hiring about 5 people who will be employed at that facility. Maybe not a huge thing, but if you're one of those 5 people who's going to get that job, and maybe you're looking at your unemployment running out or something like that, it's going to be a big deal to you. And they're probably going to have to hire somebody from close within that proximity in that area due to the nature of a bail bonds business, being 24/7. So with that, we'll submit it.
Thank you. Anyone else in attendance wishing to speak on this matter, please approach the microphone and give your name for the record.
Yes, thank you. Todd Farlow, 240 North 19th Street. I'm kind of upset that they've got a sign out there already, like they're up for business. But the fellow that owned this property, I don't know who owns it now, but also owned the properties across the street that were an absolute nightmare. I mean, they were all, I don't know how many. At one time, I think there was something like 16 or 17 businesses across the street and parking for about 3 of them. Then the guy he had a real estate thing, and he tried to make this a business park. He called it a business. This right here. This was called a business park at one time, and they finally tore down the trash enclosures that we'd been bitching about for God knows how long. But it's just wrong. I mean, these people just cannot get their act together, and that's all.
Thank you. Sir?
Yes, John Delakanakis. I live at 548 Barbara Way. I respectfully ask that you deny this application for the very reasons that were cited by the applicant. There is a bail bonds business directly across the street. Bail bonds is a very particularized type of business, much like the pawn shop business. And if you're going to localize it, you should localize it where these have traditionally been done in urban areas, around the courthouse, or on streets not close to residential areas or mixed in with other types of businesses. So I think the very reason he's saying that it's compatible is, in fact, it's not. You don't want a concentration of these types of businesses, particularly on a street like Charleston. I mean, all I have to do is look at Sahara and what they've been doing on East Sahara recently, and it's commendable. It's wonderful. I'd love to see that happening on Charleston in some way, shape, or form. This certainly would not help this type of redevelopment. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
My name is Heidi Swank. I'm at 546 Barbara Way, and I'll reiterate what my neighbor John Delakanakis said, that for the same reasons the applicant stated, that there is an overconcentration of such establishments in this area. So I hope that you will deny his application. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hello, Steve Franklin, 556 Ellen Way. Just here to speak out against this as well. It's not compatible with the area. This kind of business that conjoins residential properties is not really conducive for redevelopment of these neighborhoods. These neighborhoods have seen some serious redevelopment over the past 6-7 years. As a realtor, driving people through these neighborhoods all of the time, it gives a bad appearance whenever you're driving down a street and you see a bail bonds and a payday loan and a car title loan place. If you can imagine, say, Jewel or Newport or Soho with their business that they have on their ground floor, if those were all title loan companies or pawn shops or check cashing places, they wouldn't want that. And we don't want that surrounding our neighborhood either. This neighborhood is our Jewel. It's our Newport. So just asking respectfully for denial. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Sir?
Good evening, Scott Swank, 546 Barbara Way. I'm likewise requesting denial. It's going in the opposite direction that the neighborhood's been moving the last several years. We've seen improvements on many fronts, and to reiterate what other people have said, putting an additional bail bond place, payday loan, etc., it makes it harder to keep moving in the right direction. I respectfully ask that you deny. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else in attendance wishing to speak on this matter? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed and turn the matter over to the planning commissioners for discussion and possible motion.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, let me ask staff. This building's currently empty, correct?
No, actually, there are other tenants within the building, I believe.
So there is an insurance company and
Yes.
There's a computer repair for iPods and.
There's just a small 140 square foot space within that building.
How can the bail bond sign be up on the building? It's not approved.
That was before we didn't know. That's down already. It's taken down now. That was before we went to the city for the licensing and everything. We were just doing the licensing through the Division of Insurance. And then they approved at the Division of Insurance, and then we didn't realize that we had the stipulation of being within the city limits. So we went to county to get our licensing, then they told us we need to get licensed through city, and then once we did that...
You didn't know you were in the city?
No. I knew we were in Las Vegas, but no, we never had to go through that before with our other two locations.
Wow.
So, but that has been removed.
That's scary.
Pardon?
It's scary. You didn't know you were in the city or county.
County, yeah, that's what we went to county.
Call you to bail me out. You may end up in Indian Springs, and I'm down at the detention center.
No, I know. I knew I was in the city of Las Vegas, but I didn't know I needed to get the additional licensing through the city of Las Vegas. That's why we went to Clark County and to get our county licenses, and then they informed us of that.
it's still incompatible, and I concur with the John S. Park people as well. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments they'd like to make?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. I've never really thought of a bail bonds as the insurance.
Yeah, we're regulated by the Division of Insurance.
So that means we should have a TV show, Dog the Insurance Adjuster.
Well, he's a bounty hunter. Yeah, we don't do bounty hunters. See, people have a misconception of what bail bonds is.
We're not money hunters.
Yeah, we provide a service to get people out, you know, when to defend their rights.
I have a problem with the building you're in, and I don't know who owns this thing or what. I mean, I have a real problem that none of our sign codes seem to be met unless, I mean, this is just wrong at a bunch of different levels. So for me to sit here and look at...
Well, the only permanent sign after the...
What? Let me finish. We have temporary banners everywhere. We got all this signage. We got a chair sitting out front. Is that for the security guard or night clerk?
No, it's probably the day you guys want to take a picture.
But I'm not going to support your SUP because I think how a property is operated, in this case, doesn't give me a good feeling that this higher level of license that we're being asked for here is going to be operated in a way that it's going to work with the people in the area. I think there has to be a commitment. I mean, we've got signs on the street, we've got trailers sitting out there. I'm not sure what's going on in this building, to tell you the truth, but I'm not going to support your application. Thank you.
Anybody else want to make a comment?
Yes, I agree 100%.
You ready for a motion?
I agree 100% with Commissioner Truesdale in regards to all the sign spam. Computers fixed for $25, grand opening. The bail bond sign, Western Union, Las Vegas Insurance and Tax. And it's not much better across the street, and this whole neighborhood is suffering from all the sign spam, and it's just going to get worse as you're trying to move more businesses into this little building. And whenever I was reading the backup material, maybe I was incorrect, but I thought a permit was not issued for this business. So if there's no other comments, I would like to make a motion.
Go ahead.
Okay, on item number... We are on item 29, SUP 42683. Make a motion to follow staff's recommendations for denial.
Motion been made. Please cast your votes. Motion carries.
This item is final action in the absence of an appeal within 10 days.
I didn't want anybody to hear me. We heard item number 33 is Director's Report, 42, 436. Where'd 30 go? Oh, okay. I'm trying to move you along too quick. Okay. Item number 30 is Site Development Review 42682. The applicant owner is Emerald RE LLC for a possible action on a request for a site development plan review for a proposed 20-foot tall, 4,939 square foot single-story office medical with waivers of the perimeter landscape buffer standards to allow 0 feet along the west and north perimeters where 8 feet is required at 2400 West Charleston Boulevard. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is proposing to demolish an existing building and replace it with a one-story medical office building. The existing parking lot will remain with some minor changes to striping, and an existing trash enclosure will be relocated from the perimeter to the interior of the site. The proposed development is compatible with development in the surrounding area and is in substantial compliance with Title 19 requirements, with the exception of 2 waivers related to the omission of perimeter landscape buffers along the north and west property lines. Staff supports the waiver request as the subject site and the adjacent site share vehicular access to parking areas, and drive aisles exist where the landscape buffers are required. Landscaping in other areas have been updated to meet the current Title 19 requirements, and staff is recommending approval. Please note that there are additional letters of protest, support, and concern since publication.
Thank you. Now I'd like to declare the public hearing open. Anyone in attendance wish to speak on the matter, approach the microphone and give your name for the record.
Jim Ash with Affordable Concepts on behalf of the applicant, Emerald RE. Pretty much staff has read it as need be. Just wanted to elaborate on the west and north property line waivers. There is existing access agreements with the property owner on both of those property lines, and pretty much makes it impossible to provide landscaping at those areas. And also need to take exception or request modification to item 18 of the conditions, which states the east driveway shall be ingress only, the west driveway shall be egress only with appropriate joint access agreements. In the meetings that we went through on staff, the west driveway needs to be a two-way for fire department access, and also to maintain the access agreement with the property owner next door.
Thank you. It begs the question, so do you feel that you have satisfied with the city traffic engineer that such restrictions are infeasible? Have you done that part?
We have not specifically talked to the traffic engineer since we saw this condition. Okay. We didn't realize this condition was worded this way until, I just caught it literally.
Just need to get the approval of traffic engineer and you're okay.
Okay, yeah. And pretty much everything has gone that way, as you can see by the architectural site drawing showing the fire department turn radiuses and all. That was one of their only comments, so.
Okay, thank you. Public hearing is open. Anyone else in attendance wishing to speak can approach the microphone and give their name for the record. Mr. Farlow.
Yes, thank you, Todd Farlow. Could we see the picture of that that we had, the existing? We had another picture. They had a big old, there, right there. Is this the building that's going to be torn down that we're looking at?
Yes.
Oh, good. If you look at that, there's a huge space out there with no trees, no shade, no nothing. And what I'm trying to get across is, when you have blacktop, all this blacktop, that creates a heat sink. And all of the neighboring buildings, everybody around is going to have to suffer from that. So I hope right there, what I see right there on the landscaping plan is the same vast parking lot, which is nothing but a heat sink with no trees or no nothing back there. If they put some canopies over the parking spaces and maybe put some solar panels on them or something, but something other than a heat sink. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in attendance wishing to speak on this
Bob
matter?
Potter with Affordable Concepts. I would like to respond. We have, in fact, added additional landscaping, as Jim pointed out, on the west side, and as well as we modified and added a landscape in the parking area.
Do we have a rendering or anything that shows that?
Yes.
Is it in our book?
We don't have one.
Packet.
I have the site drawing with me, or the landscape.
Mr. Rankin, do you have one?
It's on the over on the screen currently. In the landscape planner, there's going to be six additional trees planted.
I was pointing to it, but it doesn't help you.
Yeah, the parking island directly behind the building is a new parking island which breaks up that mass of asphalt that the gentleman was referring to, and the existing east property line from Charleston to the back property line currently has no trees, no landscaping, just rock. So it's going to be a drastic improvement to what's there now and meets Title 19 requirements.
Is there anyone else in attendance that wishes to speak on this matter? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed and let the planning commissioners discuss it and make a possible motion. Anybody have any questions about the landscape plan? Now's the
I do.
perfect time to talk. Yeah. there you go.
So I was concerned because my application says that you were going to do zero landscaping across, and now I'm seeing for the first time now that you're going to provide landscaping meeting Title 19 requirements. And I really have to tell you, I can't understand it from this point and looking at it from this way. So you're going to have to walk me through it and convince me that we can approve this tonight.
If I may, the waiver we're looking for is along the west property line and the north property line.
Yes.
This being the west.
So what's going on the west, then, property line?
Nothing going on the west. The east property line currently has no vegetation.
It's
It's
just rock.
strictly rock, and
Right.
it's 5 foot wide at this point. So we're expanding that to we're removing the current curb and gutter, moving that out 3 feet to meet the 8-foot requirement along that property line, and also adding this parking island, landscape island.
A landscape island in front of the building?
Yeah, these are existing landscape islands now for parking, and we're adding this one in.
Okay.
And this is the large asphalt area that showed in that picture that the gentleman commented on. So
Right.
that will be broken up with, right now, this is just striped.
Right. Well, I think my point, my point is that when you're going to take something that's existing and try to make it look better, you kind of are stuck. When you're knocking something completely down and starting over, you really can go crazy and make this be a really beautiful project. And so I just want to see the most you can give us for this street and not the least. And I was also even thinking about some planters in the front of the building itself coming off, and I don't see it because we didn't have this till now.
Well, the buildings, the entrance to the building is towards the parking. Charleston being here, so depending on what you call the front of the building, if you're calling the face that fronts Charleston, this is all landscaping area out here.
Okay.
And as well as down each side of the building, and also across what would be the entrance to the building, but actually faces the interior of the property.
I kind of want to echo my friend Steve Evans. By landscaping, what are you putting in the front of the building?
The trees, 24-inch box trees, palm trees. It still has to be determined, but it's per the approved list.
It is.
And meeting the shrubbery as required.
Okay, because it really needs to look better than it does. I mean, you got a chance to really make this look great.
Yeah, and right now, there's a string of bushes and grass.
Yeah,
So-
and rock and...
Yeah,
Okay.
so it will definitely be an improvement.
Okay. Well, all right, well, with that, I'll follow staff's recommendations for approval, following that the company is going to follow Title 19 with all landscape requirements as they promised tonight, right? As a condition? Mr. Rankin?
Actually, let me clarify, that would be in accordance with the landscape plan that they have submitted to
Okay.
us.
And that they will follow through with that, okay.
And if I can, also acceptance of the conditions as delineated in the staff report.
Yes, and could we also clarify the fact that the ingress and egress on the west side will be ingress and egress, not just one way?
I think we need to work that out with the traffic engineer to get approval on that as it stipulates in the thing.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Please.
Again, you read the condition perfectly correct. We'd prefer, Public Works would prefer that the driveway be exit only, but if it's not feasible, then you work with the traffic engineer and eliminate that requirement.
Very good. They've
Yeah,
got the-
because it would violate the cross-access agreement that they have with this.
Just take your stuff and visit with the traffic engineer.
But they
He-
can't build
he
it
can
without
read that
visiting with
stuff.
them, right?
Yeah,
Right. Okay, thank you. So with that, we'll go with approval following staff's recommendations.
Okay, motion's been made. Please cast your vote.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. The motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, that item will go forward to City Council on October the 19th.
Now we can move to item number 33, which is Director's Report 42-436 for possible action to amend the City of Las Vegas Planning Commission Parks Rules and Regulations. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, on August the 17th, the City Council amended the term limitations for Planning Commission members. And what we would like to do is, at this point in time, amend your rules and regulations to reflect the change that City Council made. I apologize for getting this document to you just before the meeting this evening. We had hoped to have that to you earlier. However, let me just walk you through briefly the changes that we would make to the rules and regulations in accordance with the change that City Council has made to term limits. First, we would propose that we make an amendment to, under Section 2 to subsection B, reading as follows: the term of each member of Planning Commission is coterminous with the term of each of the member of council who recommended the appointment. Again, this is consistent with the changes that City Council made. And then under subsection C, no member may serve more than 3 consecutive full terms or be reappointed if the reappointment would result in consecutive or cumulative service longer than 12 years. The exception to that is for any members of the Commission who have served partial terms prior to August 1st, 2011. And then subsection D, City Council also made a change to this in their regulations, that the members of the Planning Commission serve at the pleasure of City Council. And then one final change to subsection F relative to the Code of Ethical Standards. We have made that change to NRS Section 281A in accordance with the proper section of Nevada Revised Statutes. And so those are the changes that we would propose to you this evening. Again, these are consistent with the changes approved by City Council, and we would look for your support on this item.
Thank you. Does this require public hearing?
Mr. Flynn?
Yes.
Where it says chair, vice chair, and who, what's the secretary?
The Director of Planning is the
Oh,
Secretary.
that's you.
That's me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I thought it was odd.
Do we know if this requires a public hearing?
Yes, it does.
Okay. I'd like to open the public hearing at this time regarding this director's report. Anyone in attendance wish to speak on it, please approach the microphone and give your name for the record. Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed and turn over to the planning commissioners for consideration and possible motion.
Go ahead, Byron.
Yeah, it's called the Byron Rule. Go ahead.
Byron motion. Byron law.
It's the Byron rule. You got a red pen, Flynn? There's some more I could cross out. Move for approval of item 33 DIR 42436, subject to all staff's recommendations and conditions.
Motion's been made. Please cast your votes. Motion carries. We now move to item number 34, which is the text amendment 41699. The applicant owns the City of Las Vegas for possible action to amend LVMC 19.12 related to permitted uses and LVMC 19.18 related to definitions and measures to amend the terms, descriptions, definitions, and requirements of the restaurant and with service bar and service club uses and provide other related matters. Staff report.
Mr. Chairman, under the proposed change, the supper club use would be replaced along with the restaurant service bar with a restaurant with alcohol use. The new use is very similar to the previous supper club use with the following exceptions. The minimum number of seats in the dining area has been reduced from 125 seats to 100 seats. And there's no longer a limitation in the office district restricting the use to be an accessory use, but still requiring a special use permit. Also, there's been a removal of the word only in order to assist the enforcement with the sale of beer, wine, or wine coolers for that use, so that it still requires the beer and wine to be in conjunction with the meal, but the meal doesn't have to be in place at the time. So you can get your beer first, then your meal comes second, or you can have a beer after you eat your meal. Before, it required the beer and the meal to arrive at the same moment.
And is this monitored by the Planning Division staff?
It is now. Business licensing and planning are one division, one department, and business licensing monitors that.
Very good. Thank you. I reckon this requires a public hearing also?
It does.
Okay. I'd like to declare the public hearing open. Anyone wishing to speak on behalf of this matter?
Thank
Please
you, Todd
approach the microphone
Farley,
and give your
240
name.
North 19th Street. Why is the seating reduced from whatever it was to 100? What does that have to do with the price of tea in China?
In order to accommodate different scales of business, it was the feeling of our business licensing division that we reduce the number of seats. We don't see that this will be a substantial impact to the protection of our protected uses or any other businesses.
But some of those supper clubs that they had, didn't they seat like 300 people or something? The thing is, I don't want to restrict their business. The people that's got these supper clubs say they have 300 seats in there, and now that we're going to tell them that they can only have 100. Am I hearing this right?
Mr.
Please.
Chairman, through you, that's a minimum number of seats. It's not a maximum.
Oh, never mind.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else in the audience wishing to speak on this matter? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed and turn it over to the planning commissioners for discussion and possible action. While I've got the mic, I would like to ask it, in the near future, I would like to see some of these classifications for the various alcohol distribution sites somewhat simplified, if we could possibly do that. I understand there's a lot of irons in the fire currently, but when the time permits itself, I think we would serve everyone's best interest to clarify some of this stuff.
Thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Chairman. We on staff have had that very same feeling that we have quite a number of alcohol categories, and I don't know that it really serves the public interest in having that many categories. One of the assignments that we currently have from the city manager is to streamline our use categories and also our business license categories. And so we as staff are in the process of examining that currently and hope to come back to you at some point in time with changes to our code that would help to reduce and eliminate the number of categories that we have.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this one? Then a motion's in order, probably. You're big, go big.
I'll make a motion for approval on, what item number is it?
34.
Item number 34. Thank you.
Motion's been made. Please cast your votes. Post. Motion carries. We now move to item number 35, which is a text amendment, 42758. The applicant owners the City of Las Vegas for possible action to amend LVMC Title 19.12 to consolidate the uses of banquet facility and banquet facility with alcoholic beverages sales to add banquet facility as permitted use in the M Industrial Zoning District. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, this is, there was an opportunity to combine these two uses. The request is to add the banquet facility as a permitted use in the industrial zoning district so that banquets could locate in that high-intensity zone. Prior to this, they were barred from that area, not a permitted use. As part of that review, we noted that banquet facility and banquet facility with alcohol sales were two of our uses, and there was an opportunity to consolidate those two so that banquet facilities with or without alcohol could be permitted as either a permitted use or a special use permit in certain zoning districts.
Thank you. I'd like to declare the public hearing open now. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter, please approach the microphone and give your name for the record. Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed and turn the matter over to the planning commissioners for discussion and possible motion.
Mr. Chairman, for staff, with regards to combining this use and allowing it in an industrial zone, Is there additional issues with regards to parking? Because obviously, typically M zoning is the most minimal parking, and a banquet facility has one of the most higher demands of parking.
The demand for parking is the same for all zoning districts for the use. Nothing's changing on that.
Okay, so.
Okay. That being said, no further comments. We're ready for a motion.
Then with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion for approval.
Motion has been made. Please cast your votes. Please post. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, both items number 34 and 35 will go forward to City Council in ordinance form.
Thank you. We now move to item number 36, which is citizens' participation. Public comment during this portion of the planning agenda must be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. No subject may be acted upon by the Planning Commission unless that subject is on the agenda and is scheduled for action. If you wish to be heard, come to the podium and give your name for the record. The amount of discussion on any single subject, as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed, may be limited. Public hearing is open. Anyone have anything to say, please come forward.
Hello, Steve Franklin, 556 Ellen Way. Just wanted to take a moment and on behalf of all of the neighbors that wrote in for denial of item number 24, and also for the other neighbors that were also not in support of agenda item number 29, I just wanted to take a moment and thank the council, or not council, but planning commissioners for the way that the vote went on both of those items. I know that some commissioners are more familiar with our neighborhood than others, but just to kind of give you an idea of what's going on in our neighborhood, I mean, we're seeing a lot of redevelopment going on, a lot of families moving in, a lot of couples moving in. They're giving these homes the love that they need. They're embracing the history of these homes. Even investors I've seen investors now, instead of rehabbing homes, they are restoring homes, and they're seeing the benefit and the type of tenant that they can attract with restoration over just a Home Depot rehab job. So there's a really tremendous synergy that's going on in that corridor, and it's known as Hunt Ridge, John S. Park. I mean, there's several little different old subdivisions that fall basically within the same neighborhood, but are roughly bounded by, as far east as Eastern, and then Charleston to the north, Sahara to the south, and to a lesser extent because of the commercial impact, or because of the commercial viability and what's there on Las Vegas Boulevard. But I just want to encourage you all to kind of keep these things in mind as more of these items will come up, and they have in the past and they will in the future, and to continue to keep the neighborhood in mind. And I kind of think of it kind of like a master plan community. Whenever they're built, there is no retail. I mean, people complain, well, why live out there because there are no grocery stores? Well, that doesn't change until the people arrive. Well, the people are arriving here in this neighborhood, and the commercial aspect of that will change as the community changes toward the positive. So would like you guys to kind of keep that in mind. The things that are in place now, the bail bonds and the cash checking places, and all the other commercial entities that are on Charleston and Sahara that are, I consider, a little bit more of a negative impact on the area, they're here, and that's what we have to deal with. But for future, I would like to just continue to see, denial of any SUPs or variances that are requested. So thanks again for your vote tonight, and that is it. Good night.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Mr. Farlow?
Yes, thank you, Todd Farlow. I'd like to comment just a minute on these pawn shops. I don't have cable television, but I had some friends that actually flew in because there's some sort of a television program now on some sort of a pawn shop. And look, the way I look at it is that we'll take the business here any way we can get it. If they want to fly in, they were coming in for a dart tournament or something anyway. But if people want to look at these things as sort of a boutique or whatever, it takes that edge off off the title of the pawn shop, I guess. I really don't know. I'm just looking at pawn shops in a different way now, since I see people grouping together coming in to shop these things. So that's something putting out there. Thank you.
Thanks.
You're absolutely right, Mr. Farlow. Anybody else in attendance wishing to speak? Seeing none, we'll declare the public hearing closed and